submitted for your approval, a little podcast by your brother and sister. Their mission? To find out what belongs on your shelf. Their journey will take them into strange and enormous paths, down the very annals of time immemorial. But for now, they found themselves trapped in the Twilight Zone.
Bunkos. Again.
You do look a little pale.
Yeah, there's like a weird door with a light behind it. I don't know.
Really probably should not have pulled off the road right now.
Probably not.
Are we back? We're back in the damn zone again.
I don't know how we keep ending up here. It's ridiculous.
It's because we keep taking that damned shortcut. Or what we think is the shortcut.
Well, it's supposed to be the shortcut. There was a sign that said shortcut. That's why we follow it.
Well, that's the problem. But this is an extended journey. And we should know, as Shelf Life, our true fans know that you can only take shortcuts after you go the full length.
The full route?
And then you can take the shortcut. That's right.
That's true.
Oh, boy. So I guess this means that we've got to do more of these, huh?
Yeah, I think that
right.
You know, we're in that atmosphere now. We might as well. I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't think this is a shortcut at all.
Oh, hang on. There seems to be some sort of piece of paper over here. Check it out. Okay. So, apparently, Rachel, this is the main event of Volume 4. I am Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast where a brother and sister team always sell their souls to the devil, making sure that there is an escape clause. But also go through... Rachel didn't like that one. Also go through pop culture one at a time to make sure that you are really prevalent about those contracts. You have to make sure that you read those contracts. That's the problem. You sign a Faustian deal like that, and you just don't know what you're getting yourself signed in. We have a lot to talk about with that particular episode.
Probably.
So, no, we don't do any of that. What we do here is we go through pop culture one at a time to determine whether or not the subject at hand belongs on your shelf, be that digital or physical. Rachel, I said it. It is the main event. We have come to the end of Volume 4.
That's right. Soft main. You know.
Well, this was a big volume. We had
volume.
X-Men, we had E.T., we had Paddington.
Paddington's the best.
Da Vinci Code, Animal Farm. I mean, there's between E.T. or X-Men could have main evented. For sure. And we have something special for you today. A 2-part main event. We're doing 4 episodes of... What are we covering here today, Rachel? What will we be covering over the next 2 shows?
We will be discussing The Twilight Zone, Season 1, Episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
Today is just 5 and 6. But
So what are those episodes?
We will be talking about walking distance and escape clause.
That's correct. So, folks at home, if you did not listen to our... I don't know if you can hear any of the thunder in the background, but we are in the Twilight Zone. There's all sorts of weird weather happenings. God knows what's going to happen. Rachel's black and white across from me right now. I don't even know how she discolored herself.
My full body, complete saturation is all gone. When you said, submitted for your... something, I was like, for the Midnight Society, all I kept thinking was, are you afraid of the dark?
Oh yeah, they did do that.
Yes.
I think they took it from...
Well, they must have, but at the same time, that's what popped into my head when you said,
well, because you're right. In this first season, he doesn't do the submitted for your approval. There is the 5th dimension.
Yeah, he does the 5th dimension.
That's how he starts it out. Yeah. So this was the first ones that I watched the Blu-ray on, and there's commentaries, and they said that...
oh yeah. Was this the one? No, I had commentary on something else. Sorry, go ahead.
In the first episode, he had written the script to do his little narration, and he said in the 6th dimension, and they were like, Rod? I think there's only 4 dimensions, and he was like, oh, whatever.
It's like, well, this one's the 6th dimension. Wrap your head around that one. It's not even the 5th dimension.
If you did not listen to the first part of our Twilight Zone series, part of the overall journey, the journey into the Twilight Zone, brought to you by Shelf Life, we did do an episode on the Twilight Zone. All 4 of those episodes that we covered in Volume 1 are shortcuts. So even if you just want to pick and choose your way through those, they'll all be there for you. There might be shortcuts from this too, but, true believers have to go through the whole thing. We did some history about the Twilight Zone. We've talked about our feelings about the Twilight Zone. I will say we picked this as the main event because we looked at the lineup of these episodes, and in particular, I looked at the lineup of these episodes, and I was like, oh, these are pretty influential.
That's what you made it sound like.
No, I'm saying, like, I remember looking at these, and we said... Even back in Volume 1, because I think we even said back in Volume 1, this might be a main event slot.
It does kind of feel
depending on what it is. And we've done some big stuff for those of you that are coming in new. Go back and look at what we've done in Volume 4. We had some big hitters, some potential other ones that you could consider a main event. But we decided to put this in the back slot. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's a joke. We say it's like the main event. It's just something that we're trying to do that's bigger. When we do this last show of the volume, we're looking for it, and I'm going, oh man, I know what happens in all 4 of these by other pop culture osmosis, whether that's The Simpsons, or Futurama, or Saturday Night Live, or anything that has homaged Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Right. Yeah, that I was just mentioning
there's a million.
That one.
Like, these episodes in particular, I think, do a lot of that, and or have a significant piece of art when it comes to the Twilight Zone. So that's why we're doing this one as the main event, or the co-main here for Volume 4. So the first episode that we are covering here is Walking Distance. It is the 5th episode of the Twilight Zone. Rachel, do you have any prior history of this episode, and what is this episode about?
I feel like I've seen, like, the episodes of Twilight Zone before. I don't know if I have, like, a lot of, like, remembrance or, like, nostalgia for it, but I just, like, remember watching it. The episode...
Nostalgia, a key word for this particular episode.
That's actually very true. Because what we go through is this man goes back to his hometown and is just kind of reliving the nostalgia. He's going to, like, all the different places that he used to visit. And what we find out is he didn't just go back to his hometown. He went back in time.
Yeah, we've done a lot of time travel here in Volume 4. Right? Like, we did Doctor Who's time travel. Yes. Philadelphia Experiment is time travel.
Yeah. Twilight Zone.
Here we are. The other reason that this is the last episode... Or Paddington, time travel, of course. The other reason that this is the last show that we're doing is all 4 of these episodes kind of tie everything up thematically.
Weirdly.
Like, every single one of these, you can go back and say, like, oh, this one is about nostalgia and time travel, and they talked about E.T. and Philadelphia Experiment and Doctor Who. Like, the next one is about Faustian deals and being immortal and all of this stuff, and you can go, oh, there's X-Men in there, there's Animal Farm is in it, there's
weird. It all ties together in a neat little package.
Thank you, Homer. So we need to just get a soundboard so that every time we need to say that, we can just have Homer going, oh, it ties it up into a neat little package then.
It wasn't being sarcastic.
So, I'm sorry, I stopped you from being able to say your history and or what Walking Distance is about. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you didn't.
Oh, no, you did. Oh, that's right.
Kevin has gone loopy. And I guess it's just the Twilight Zone. Woo! We already did it.
Yeah, whatever. So... Yes. So when it comes to Walking Distance, I think I explained in the first part of when we talked about Twilight Zone, which, folks at home, for us recording it, that was like 2 years ago. So I don't...
You don't have to tell them that. They don't know. They don't know when we record.
Well, I mean, the episode, like, compared to when this episode came
true.
out, it's almost 2 years ago.
That's
So
you're not
so it
wrong.
actually might have been 3 years ago.
Oh, good lord.
I think I talked about how I watched all of them as an adult because when they all went to Netflix, I started watching them.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember
doing
watching
that, too.
Walking Distance and being like, "Oh my god, this is a great one." And that was it. And that would have been like 10, 15 years ago. So I don't remember. I just don't remember. You know, that's the reason. That's the point of Shelf Life. You go back and you see what's the truth about it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's my history with it. Is I know I watched it that one time, and I don't remember anything else. I will say this: for Christmas, Grandma gave me the Blu-ray of the Twilight Zone, the full series, a big ass
Look at that.
set.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm. So now I've got that in hand. Thanks, Grandma. So then we can go through this. She's listening, and she just went, "You're welcome."
I could tell.
So,
I could tell.
So
She totally would.
I watched this with commentary as well. So an interesting thing about the Blu-ray is that most of these episodes of the quote-unquote classics, so Escape Clause did not have commentary, most of these episodes have commentary, and they have commentary for different things. This one had like 3 different commentary tracks. One was like people breaking down the score, one was people breaking down the writing, and then they also had one where Rod Serling was giving a lecture at a college, and in particular, he was breaking down this episode with students, and they were doing like question and answer back. He was so very critical of this episode.
Wow.
He thinks that his writing was bad in this episode.
Interesting.
And I'll point out as we go through some of his complaints about it, but he thinks that he did a very bad job of, he thinks it was too much exposition. He thinks that he flipped what should have happened at the end of Act 3. It happens at the end of Act 1. And all of this like stuff happens out of order. I don't disagree with his points.
Sure.
If it affects whether or not it's on the shelf, we'll see. But it was interesting to actually hear that commentary, Rachel. Honestly, Rachel, the next time that you're at my house, you'll have to watch it. Because it is interesting, because it's a different kind of commentary. Because it's him going like, now this scene is... I just did a terrible job, because why would he ever say that to the gas station attendant? And then there's like these like people in the audience being like, well, maybe this or that, or like, what did you think, this or that? And he's like, no. And then he like complains about the time travel aspect, and he's like, I can't give you an answer about time travel. It's time travel. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous or whatever. Yeah, he was pretty critical about it, but his daughter said that this was one of his favorite episodes, because it was about him.
This was his favorite episode, or this was her favorite episode?
Well, this was her favorite episode, but she thought that it was also one that he held close to his heart because it was about him.
Because it was about him.
Or at least she thinks it was about him.
So maybe that's why he's so critical of it.
That's what I was thinking,
It's so close to home for him, so he's just so critical of it.
He wants to make it perfect,
right.
Yeah. I mean, we can relate to that. We've held off a bunch of subjects because we're like, no, we're not good enough yet. We have to get better at this.
It's true.
So
and hey,
we're like,
even
we can't
our
do
first
that yet.
stuff, it's very good and better than, I'm just saying.
So yeah, his daughter thought that this was a very personal story for him, because she even said that her dad would have them go to his hometown every year. They would do a vacation there. It seemed like that was like
so he is very nostalgic.
I think he does always feel very nostalgic. I think that was something that Rod Serling was very aware of about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why the message is almost something where he would have to remind himself about. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's why she thought, like, maybe you're right. Maybe that's why he was so critical of it, because to him this was like, he needed to have it right,
Yes.
And he always felt like he could have done a better job.
It was so close to him, so close to like home, so close to his heart, that it was like, this has to be right. It's not just a story.
Right. And in the themes of what this is about, which is there's a lot of nostalgia, going home again, wishing that you could relive the past, making up for lost time, all of that kind of stuff is done in the Twilight Zone a bunch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's clearly like something that Rod Serling thinks about.
It's a theme.
It's a theme. This episode aired on October 30th, 1959, written by Rod Serling and directed by Robert Stevens. The music in this, for the first time, was an original score by Bernard Herrmann. So instead of it being parts of Herrmann's old scores that he would repurpose, he made an entire new score. I think that it assists this very well. As we go through, I will point that out. But, Rachel, let us get right into Walking Distance. So we get the typical opening. This guy in a Corvette, or at least an expensive car for the 1950s, right? I couldn't tell like the brand or anything, but it's like a Roadster or something. Yeah.
The top is down.
The top is down. Yeah. This guy flies up to a gas station. He's in a fancy car.
Jackass.
Well, because of the dust coming all over him,
not just
and like because he came in so hard
hot.
that there's dust all over him. Yeah.
But
he honks angrily.
Up. And he honks, and then he honks and he honks and honks and honks. It's like, dude. Even the gas attendant guy is just like, dude.
Yeah.
Do you want to quiet down a little bit?
Yeah, like, all right, dial it back a little bit here,
yes.
Rich guy. I mean, he does, we get the narrative here. Martin Sloan, age 36. Actually, I guess should I say what the opening narration
go
was
ahead.
here?
We can do that.
Okay, I'll let you do the closing narration, Rachel.
Sounds good.
Martin Sloan, age 36, occupation, vice president, ad agency, in charge of media. This is not just a Sunday drive for Martin Sloan. He perhaps doesn't know it at the time, but it's an exodus. Somewhere up the road, he's looking for sanity, and somewhere up the road, he'll find something else. Commercial! Buy these cigarettes. So that's the narration that we get. I always find it so bizarre that all of these characters are like in their mid-30s, and look, we've discussed this on other episodes.
So old.
I'm in my mid-30s. I know that millennials think that they look younger than they do because they do look slightly younger than they actually
because
are.
The older generation looked older at their same age.
But this fucking generation in the 50s, this guy does not look 36. Okay, he does not look 36.
50? Like, he's got to be 50.
Let me see how old this guy was. So this is a future Academy Award winning actor playing Martin Sloan, Gig Young. Gig Young was born in 1913, which would have made him, he would have been, 40, 46, 47? So you're not that far off, Rachel.
So I wasn't wrong. He actually is.
I don't know how he's...
He looks his age then. But they made him play such a younger character.
Yeah. So he's just playing way younger.
We're fine then. That's fine.
Fair enough. Yeah, this is not Martin Sloan, Gig Young's fault, unlike something else I'll get into but when we get to the end of the episode. This is a weird... Everyone's 36 years old because that's how old I am. I look like I'm also 45 because I smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day. The fact that Rod Serling was 36 years old and had his own television show really makes me feel like I've done nothing with my life. I have my own podcast.
A little inadequate.
And I share it with my little sister.
He calls me his little sister, and I'm also old. So it's like... it's just
like
truth.
The Lewis Black joke. When he's like, I'm 70 years old, and my mother still thinks she's my mother!
I mean, that's just the truth. That's just how it will be.
So this guy is like, yeah, I can take care of your car and stuff. And Martin clearly is burnt out from his job. He hates adult life. That's what we get from this. The stresses of adult life are just weighing him down. He can't stand it. He doesn't want to be in any more board meetings or any of this bullshit, and he can't take it, so he just... And what a luxury. I mean,
his hair can't take it either. I mean, that kind of just, like, showed everything.
He kept trying.
He was
so
sweating. He was all over the place. Like, they were like, hold on, we gotta get you back into makeup for a second. And then when he gets out of the car, he looks just fine. But it's just like, in that car, he is so disheveled.
He's very disheveled. This guy's like, yeah, I can do your oil change. Takes about an hour. And Sloan sees a sign for Homewood up ahead. This is where the dialogue... This is what Serling was like, it's like being cringy about like something that you wrote and you know it's not as good as you wanted it to be, right? He's talking like, oh yeah, I couldn't stand any more of these board meetings. I was gonna go crazy. I'm from New York and I couldn't take it anymore. And in the commentary, Serling's like, why the hell would he be telling this to the gas station attendant?
This man just has a running narration coming out of his own mouth the entire time. It's just like his inner monologue is constantly on the outside. Yeah. Which, I mean, you have to convey it some way, but I actually think if he would have said nothing and then he actually does this expository dump in the drugstore later, it would have been better. Because it would have made more sense in that context to be, because when the druggist asks him, where are you from? And he says New York, then he can go into the spiel about how he hates being a vice president. It's so much work and stress. Probably worked better.
Yeah, then like why is he telling the gas station dude?
And here he just has to look kind of like contemplative, maybe say to the guy like, oh, that's not too far of a walk, I'm gonna head over there, right?
Yeah.
Just to be like, then I'll be like walking back, you know.
Right. But the dialogue here is a little
corny?
Bad.
Goofy?
Well, because he's like, Homewood, huh? I used to live there. I remember that. It felt like a
And he says
Seinfeld
25
parody.
Years ago, and I was like, what, he was 10? Did you move when you were 10? Or
no, he said he was there up through primary school.
Okay.
So like I was thinking that they would have moved like when he was like 16 or something, like maybe right after high school.
Maybe it was definitely more of that 20 years if he's supposed to be 36 or whatever.
Yeah. He's like, oh, a mile and a half up the road, huh? I used to live there. And he like repeats himself. He like says it twice. And then the gas station guy's like, yep, mile and a half up the road. And he's like, that's walking distance, isn't it? And he's like, yep, about a mile and a half. And it's like they repeat themselves. They didn't need to say it twice.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the dialogue is kind of hokey at this part. I don't like it.
But it sets you up. It sets you up for what he's gonna do. He's gonna walk into the hometown because it's gonna be about an hour. So he's like, "All right, I'll walk to the hometown. I'll take a look around."
You mean an hour up the road? You know, he's got like the mile and a half up the road to his hometown because he used to live there.
Yep, I used to live there. Hometown, half mile up the road. Yep, hour.
That's
hour
walking distance.
So he walks to Homewood.
You know that mile and a half up the road. I'm sorry, I had to do it again.
A mile and a half up the road. Yep, about a mile and a half. So he goes, it's like, yeah, we know it's a mile and a half. The fucking sign says that. It felt like in the radio play they'd have to say that. Yes. You don't have to say that on the television version.
Right.
So he goes into the drugstore from his youth, and he asks for a 3-scoop chocolate soda, which I really want right now.
It sounds so good.
I really want a 3-scoop chocolate soda.
Yes.
What is a chocolate soda? What's the difference between a chocolate soda and a chocolate milkshake?
Isn't that what it is?
Is it just a milkshake?
Isn't it like a root beer float? But like, isn't it like a root beer float?
That's what I was assuming. It's like a root beer float. Because I was like, it's got to be like carbonated, right? Like a little bit of like there's carbonation. I
assume it's like a Coke or something in it.
Okay.
And then they're putting in the ice cream inside. So I think it's like a root beer float.
Okay. I always think about This is a very random and specific reference. There's a Mystery Science Theater episode called Squirm. Do you remember this one, Rachel?
Sounds familiar.
About the worms, about the killer worms.
I kind of assumed it was about worms because it's called Squirm.
And the nerdlinger from New York that's from out of town goes into this bar and he asks for an egg cream. And the waitress is like, an egg cream? And he's like, it's a chocolate soda with a little something something. And I was like, why did you think this town would know this? Who would know this? Anyway. Oh, Rachel's looking it up. She's got to find out what an egg cream is.
Well, an egg cream, a cold beverage consisting of milk, carbonated water, flavored syrup as a substitute for an ice cream float. So it is like it's just an ice cream float. It's just a float.
What's a chocolate soda?
Hold on.
You're just like, there's a lot less information about this chocolate soda.
Well, because it came up as like 4 different names, so then I got really confused. It's soda, water, syrup, and a scoop of ice cream.
So it's the same thing as the egg cream,
It's just
right?
a float. Yeah, an egg cream, a chocolate soda, a float. They're all the same thing. It's like a carbonated thing with some ice cream in it.
Okay.
There you go.
So it truly is one of those things that is like, Yeah, it sounded pretty good. Going into the summer and getting yourself a nice chocolate soda. 3 scoops. It was only 10 cents back then.
That's right. And this old man is just like, uh-huh.
Yeah, the old man in this is so, like, unassuming. Like, just let this guy talk, whatever. It's a slow day.
This is also
So
the
he tells
same.
him
This is the same location as one of the other, like, the earlier episodes, right? Because it's got the big old mirror. It's the soda shop. It's the guy who,
does
like,
look like-
walks through the
it looks like
town
the one
that's
in-
deserted, right?
Yeah. It looks like they just shifted the cameras and where is everybody,
Yeah.
and they made it sit on the right side instead of the left side. It definitely
Because I was
does
just
look
like, this
that.
mirror looks so familiar.
Rachel was getting nostalgia for the mirror.
That's all.
She was like,
Just
you know,
love
I've
this
seen
mirror."
this mirror before. I've seen this before. 3 episodes ago, I think. Back in the day, we used to do we did a shelf life on the first 4 episodes of Twilight Zone. Yeah, those were
Those were the
good times.
Good times, yeah.
Good times. You get a
Feels like
Big
we were
Mac
back
for
in the
$4.50 back then. or
Yeah, now
whatever.
it's like $6 or $8.
You get a Taco Bell craving box for $5. It's $10 now.
My
So
God.
anyway, he tells this guy that he looks familiar, and the guy's like, yeah, I have that kind of face. And he's like, yeah, I spent a lot of time here 20 years ago. This was my shop. I spent so much time. He takes a piece of candy out of the thing. I wish that you could just go into a store and just get candy. I guess you can get lollipops at a diner, but that's about it.
True.
Like
They don't
even the
have,
candy,
like,
I was
here's
like,
the bucket
oh,
of
like a little
candy.
taffy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good bucket of candy. The guy hands him the soda and
Make
asks
your
for a
own bucket
dime.
of candy.
I guess you're right. I could do that. The guy hands him the soda and asks for a dime. He says no one sells soda for a dime anymore. And he's like, they don't? Where are you from? And this is where he tells him, like,
New York.
you know, I'm from New York and stuff.
And
so it
this
could
is
be
where
possible.
it could have been a perfect spot for it. Yeah. The backstory.
Yes. This is where he could have told his backstory. He's an ad man. His name is Don Draper. He's an executive, and he's stealing.
Don Draper.
But he goes into all of this nostalgia for the place, how much he loves it, how much he loved growing up, and how much he loved living there, and all of this stuff. Being a part of this community and being a kid and all of this. I think that Serling is really trying to make sure that people understand the rose-colored glasses aspect of nostalgia as well.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get into that as much in this episode as he might in some of the other episodes that tackle this as well. This is a lot more rose-tinted than some of those, like Next Stop at Willoughby and things like that. But this guy is very full of nostalgia for his hometown.
He's very full of nostalgia just for his childhood and his past, and I think it's just from the stress of being an adult.
Right. He expects Mr. Wilson just to be sleeping in the stockroom like he always did before he died. Serling thought that the druggist does not seem to have like a
He doesn't have any
reaction.
comment. Is he just like kind of like, okay,
I think that the actor looks at him kind of funny,
but
like
he doesn't have
"What?"
anything to say. Like
Yeah, or any like reaction to it.
what do you
sure.
mean dead?
Slow-
He's up there right now.
Yeah.
Like he has nothing to say.
He should at least like side eye it a little bit
Yeah.
or something.
I guess they don't really show his face enough for us to really get his reaction. They are zoomed in on this man's face while he's having his thoughts. It's only when they like come back out when he gives them the money that he's kind of just like just kind of staring at him, like he doesn't really have thoughts or emotions. And then he gives him $1 and he goes, that's a whole $1. And it's like, yep.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, keep it. It was worth it. It's fine. What we learn later is that a lot of the money that he has is from after that, the current year that he's been sucked into. Mm-hmm. So he probably just got this guy like arrested for some sort of fraud or money scam or something.
Oh no.
What ends up happening is after he leaves, the guy behind the counter goes up to check on Mr. Wilson. He opens the container. He sees that they're out of chocolate syrup.
Yes.
He goes upstairs and he goes, Mr. Wilson, we need more chocolate syrup. And there's this like old man sitting there. He looks like it reminded me of like that character in The Simpsons that oh crap, I shouldn't have told him it was illegal. Like he's like I thought he was gonna be sitting there like fanning himself.
He does kind of look like
asleep
that. He's got like a
'cause it's
white
too
suit
hot.
on. He's like the KFC guy. He's like the Colonel.
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
And all this guy tells him is like, we need more chocolate syrup. And he's like, I'll order some this afternoon. And that's the end of it.
Yep.
Now, in the lecture, somebody points out to Serling that he thought that the guy was just waiting for Serling to leave. Or not Serling, was waiting for Sloane to leave so that he could go check on Mr. Wilson. Like, he was going to check if he was alive because he was, like, dead.
Oh,
and
like
so he's like, I better go check on him.
Is he dead?
Yeah. And Serling, even in the lecture, like, laughs and is like, is that what you thought I was going to do? And he's like, that would have been better. So, like, yeah, that would have been better.
Because he would have had, like, some reaction to this man coming in and talking, like, what's happening now is the past is weird.
Right.
So it's just, like, you'd think he would have had a reaction. He had nothing. The man doesn't even like his job, apparently, because he's just, like, completely zoned out.
I figured he owned the place. So he's just the owner.
Oh, fair.
And so, like, he's just this, like, lazy owner. And, like, Ralph, or whoever this guy is, you know, basically running the place. Mm-hmm. This 75-year-old man is the ice cream scooper. But it is our most obvious clue that something is weird. And then he starts just walking around the neighborhood. I think that the score does a very good job of making you feel like this is a welcoming environment. It's a very warm score by Bernard Herrmann.
It's not like a creepy or anything.
It's not his
weird
usual
is happening. Yeah, it's kind of just like, oh, you're getting
very
that
fluffy
warmth of nostalgia, that warmth of going home.
It really does its job, and it really does its job in the third act. People are all walking around. A lot more people are walking around the neighborhood than probably should, but I guess it's a Sunday. But like, it's populated again. Love the sets of like small town USA that the Twilight Zone always uses. It
oh my god!
Just looks like a place that never existed and never will.
Right.
But everyone thinks it did.
Yes.
And then we get this little kid playing with Aggies.
Kid who's just
Rachel.
Hi.
This little kid making his second appearance technically in Volume 4.
Fair.
Do you know who it is?
I don't remember.
It's little Ronnie Howard. So I guess we get the director of Da Vinci Code. So I guess we can say technically Ron Howard, Two-Timers Club here in Volume 4.
Oh my god.
Welcome. Little Ronnie Howard is playing this little kid.
That's fine, but it's still a little odd that this child who is playing with his marbles turns around to say hello to this weird man walking down the street talking to himself.
It's the 30s, Rachel.
Still.
No, that was a thing. If an adult passed you by and you were a child, you were obligated to say, hello, sir, how was your day?
You're right.
Or they actually, back in the 30s, they would just take out a switch.
Yeah.
And they could do whatever they wanted. So, you know. Because, like, remember, in, like, the teens and 20s, George Bailey's getting his ears boxed by that guy.
That was horrendous.
So he sits down and he starts playing with Ron Howard. He's talking about marbles, and they talk about how, I used to play marbles as a kid and all of this stuff, and how we used to give them names and everything. And Ron Howard's like, yeah, we still do that. That's what we do. I'm pretty good at Aggies and everything.
Then he gets, like, awkward. Like, why are you talking to me? You're the one who instigated this conversation, child. Why did you say hello to this old man?
Okay, first, no. I'm not going to blame Ronnie Howard in this situation, Rachel.
And I'm like, why'd you pick up my marble? Like, how dare you?
Because he's a little kid.
I'm just saying.
Hi to people randomly.
I guess.
You go for a walk in your neighborhood and a little kid's like in a stroller or just walks by.
All right, you're fine. You're right. You're right. And they only wave at me because I have a dog. So.
Yeah. You wave back. Maybe they say hi. Maybe they say something. But that's the
I know, but this 30, 40, 50-year-old man comes and sits down with this kid and he starts talking to him. And the kid's just like, what is up with this guy? He's so weird. Because now he's like telling me his life story. Then he's like, you live... Because then the guy goes, you see that house over there? Used to live there. He goes, the Sloan house? And he's like, yeah. You still call it that?
That was a perfect voice. You sounded just like Ron Howard. You sound like Ryan Howard now.
It's really true. And then so the guy says his name is Martin Sloan, right? Martin Sloan. And the kid erupts. He is offended by this man saying that he is his friend's name. How dare you say you're Marty Sloan? I know Marty Sloan, and you're not Marty Sloan.
Sloan house? You still call it that?
Still call it what?
The Sloan House. My name's Sloan. Martin Sloan. What's yours?
You're not Marty Sloan. I know Marty Sloan, and you're not him.
That's
And
outrageous.
you, sir, are no Marty
That is
Sloan.
blasphemy. And the guy goes, "Let me prove it to you with my license." Kid walks away. So that's like the entire thing. I know, but it's just so funny. He was just so offended. He left all his marbles and walked away. Screw this man who says he's my Marty friend.
It's like little kids would just leave shit in the front yard, you know?
Sure.
I get that. I actually thought that it wasn't that bad of an interaction. For
No,
a
I
little
think it's
kid.
fine.
Like, little
It
kids
just
aren't that like bizarre.
I just think
you know?
the man
They are
is
just
bizarre. The child is fine. The man is bizarre.
I thought it was weird, and folks at home that are old enough to remember, was this a thing where, like, each house would be like, oh, that's the old Sloan place. Oh, that's the Wilcox house. Like, is that
Yeah.
a thing where you,
Like,
like,
you
you knew
still
all the
call
neighbors'
it that?
names? And you called it that? Like, oh, that's the Shelf Life Studios. Like, you're not going to be calling, like, that's weird. Like, I just go, that's the neighbor. That's...
We did that growing up.
No.
Yes, because you did go by their last names.
I suppose, but like the house itself, I guess, like, you know, oh, that's the old Sloan place. Like, I guess if the Sloans were still living there.
I guess if they
But-
lived there for a long enough time and people actually interacted.
You know what, though? I'm saying this and I'm thinking back to Halloween and, like, that's the old Myers
Exactly.
house. So I guess you're right.
Yeah. I think
Alright,
I
fine.
think it's just one of those things where it's either they've lived there forever and so everybody knows who they are. Something happened in that house, i.e. the Myers house, and so now it has like a reputation, you know. So it's like one of those things. We had,
Yep. Or
hell, we had
it's
the
your
murder
friends.
house. We knew. Remember the murder house? We called it the murder house because every time we'd pass it,
We
we're
do
like,
have the
remember
murder
that
house.
that kid murdered his dad or something. It was whatever happened. Like he remembered.
I think it was
that.
the kids murdered the other kids. I think
Okay,
that's what
I
happened in the
think you're
murder
right.
house.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I forgot. Yes. All right, fine. Fine, you've swayed me. So Rachel is right. Martin Sloan acting like a weirdo. Ron Howard, perfectly fine. Houses all have names. Okay, I'm glad that we've
Houses
established
all have
that.
names.
He goes to the park next. This is where the score gets really sentimental. And, you know, for all the faults that Serling says that the script has, and it does, I understand them. I don't disagree with Rod in this case. It's so genuine. The feeling and the way that Gil Young plays it, and just the way that the score and the writing and everything is done, the cinematography and everything, it feels so genuine. It does not feel it anyway. We talked about saccharine stuff in the past, Rachel, where it's like, oh, are they trying to make you feel that emotion? It's not genuine. It feels like they mean it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, you really understand how it's like he's pouring the soul into this. Here, they all are,
Sure.
in my opinion. He helps a kid out that's in a tree, and his mom's mad that the kid's in the tree, so he helps him
This
get out
was
of it.
weird
get out of
too.
it.
The man walking through the park, and then he's just like, "All right, I'll come get him. Let me tell him to get out of that tree with you." Like that was weird. This man is a little odd. I'm sorry. But it was just the way that he's like,
thinking,
"Come
"Ah,
on,
it's another guy in
Bobby.
that tree."
Your mother's telling you to come down. Come on, Bobby."
Well, yes. In today's day and age, if a man came by and did that,
No.
you'd be like, "Excuse me, but I can take care of it.
Please
Thank
go
you.
away,
Thank
you
Go
creep.
away. Yes, please go away. Go, sir. Sir, I have
no,
my
let me
rape
tell
whistle
you
on
about
me.
this park, and I'll walk
I
with
will-
you and
I
your
will pepper
baby.
spray you, sir.
The carousel.
Yes. I
I know it's
don't
of a
if this
different
is-
time and stuff too, and I've
But
talked
I
to
also
people
don't know
when
if
I
this
go on
is-
walks, so I get it.
I don't know if this is Rod Serling's intention or not, but I could also see this all being a dream.
It
sequence.
feels like a dream.
So in those respects, then you could it's almost like an apology for like you being like, this is fucking weird. Like why, like you're just gonna let this guy, because it's a dream. It's
Yeah.
not, you know.
But it's also
not
one of those
really-
things where it's like sometimes you run into somebody and then you just start talking to them. I've had
Yeah.
that happen. I've definitely had that happen. People always talk to me. I won't be just saying a thing or looking anywhere and someone will just start talking to me. So I get it. I apparently have one of those faces.
I can't say I do. I try to avoid people like the plague, so I can't say that happens. He goes on and on about the past again, this time with this mom who's in her, like, big 1930s summer getup. And he talks about how
a little
he
neck,
wrote his...
but nothing else.
Damn right. It's great. He wrote his name, he carved it into a bandstand one summer when he was 11 years old. And then he sees this kid that looks like what he looked like at 11 doing the carving. So he walks over to this bandstand, and he sees himself carving into it. And he asks the kid if he's Martin Sloan, and the kid's like, "Oh, I didn't mean anything about it, Mr. Honest." And he runs off. He's like, "Martin, Martin, Martin!"
Yeah, him yelling, "Martin!" Like, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't just have, like, a, whoa, no, this can't be happening. He just immediately runs after the kid.
That is also part of what Serling doesn't like about it. He's like, I had to keep him calm the entire time because otherwise he would go too crazy too quickly, and then where does it go? Yeah. So he says he did it backwards, and he did. He definitely did it backwards. He should have seen the car first, maybe something else first. Then he sees the kid. He chases the kid home. Then he sees his parents. Mm-hmm. That should have been the sequence of events, because then he can have a freak out.
Right.
It goes in reverse by having him see the kid, see the parents, then see the car, then figure it out because of the car.
But it's like you just saw your parents.
And the only explanation you can give for all this is it is a dream. So he's doing things out of order. He can't remember if it's real or he's sleeping or whatever. And you could even say it's like a daydream because he walked to the town or whatever.
Right. And he's just
so
like
it's all in his
having
head.
all of this happening in his head. Yeah.
So that's possible. I mean, it's still you could have that interpretation of it. It's all just happening in his head. So that's why he goes back and forth on being crazed or thinking like he saw himself or like, not necessarily knowing what's happening and then putting it all together.
Right.
I don't mind having that interpretation of it. So he goes to his parents' house. It really should have been built up to this, like we said.
Yes. He
sees his parents, and he stays calm. Again, that seems like a problem, because they're dead.
Yeah,
we know that
like
they died.
A little surprised. He immediately calls him Pop, and then he sees his mom. But then he freaks out. Like,
yes. Because he's like, "It's me! I'm Martin! I'm Martin! I'm Martin!"
Yeah.
And they think he's a lunatic.
Which, sure.
He freaks out, and they shut the door on him. Which, yeah, of course you would.
Right.
This 50-year-old man says he's a 36-year-old man and he's your son. At this point, he should be like, what now? What do I do? And while he's doing that, some guy says hi and shows off his new roadster.
That is so random.
Yes.
That this man is just like, hey, look at my car. It's like,
it would make more sense. It would make more sense if he does something after the drugstore.
Yes.
He sees the car and he's like, whoa, I haven't seen a roadster like this in 20 years. Then the guy's like, what do you mean? It's brand new. Don't you like it?
Right.
It's awesome.
That makes a lot more sense.
Then he's like, brand new. And then, but he doesn't like put it together quite yet.
He's like,
just
yeah, okay.
Like
you put it, yeah, like, oh, yeah, you just fixed it up or something. And then he walks to the park.
Yeah.
And then he sees the parents. Yeah.
This should be a symbol that something's going wrong, not the thing that tips him off. Now, one thing about this, Rachel, rumble seats, I think we should bring them back. I think it'd be pretty awesome.
The rumble seat should be brought back?
Doesn't that seem cool? That you pull the seat out like that? You have to like sit in the back?
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of neat.
I don't know about
not necessarily for like highway driving.
Yeah, definitely not highway driving. Even though I have seen many people with either kids or themselves, like adults or animals in the bed of a truck on the highway, and I just go, so dangerous.
Yes. Well, where you live, I could understand that. The guy's like, yeah, it's first car. It's brand new. The car thing is what gives him a clue that, wait a minute, am I in the past? And it's like, well, what did you think was going on before this? Yeah.
They're alive? Like, he goes, you shouldn't be here to the mom. So the dad must still be alive as like an old man. Maybe. But like, he says to the mom, you shouldn't be here.
Oh, okay, so the mom's died.
I think the mom is dead.
Yeah, I know. I thought both of them were, but yeah, you're okay. So at least one of them.
It was just the way that he says that.
Okay.
But maybe he's saying it to both of them. Maybe they're both dead. I don't know.
I did think they did pretty good casting with the dad.
Oh my god, he looked identical.
He looks like an older version of him.
Yes.
Like, it was very good. Even if they like put makeup on the guy to make him look older, which I think they did.
Sure.
And they did a pretty
It was
good job
great.
of that too.
Yeah.
It's night now. So what the hell's
Oh my
he
god,
been
he's
doing?
been there for hours.
What's he been doing?
Hours.
He goes back to the house on a nice picturesque street. He's walking through this hedge field front yard, and he steps on his baseball glove and he picks it up in more nostalgic remembrance of days gone by of playing baseball and pickle sticks and spin the wheel and thumbnails and any other games from back then.
Right, yes.
Kick the can and spelling bees and scraped knees and pie cooling on a windowsill.
Are you gonna go into a song? I'm like waiting for it.
I was doing the Armin Tamzarian speech from that episode of The Simpsons. Well, if that's corny,
remember some of it.
then corn me up. The dad comes and stops him from clicking the bike bell, because he's clicking his, like, bike bell. He tells him he had to come back. This is his home. And he's like, this is my glove. He's like, look, I don't know who the hell you are, but you need to get the fuck off my property. He doesn't say it like that because it's Twilight Zone in the 1950s, but if this happened to you, you'd be like, get the fuck off my property before I call the police.
Right. Instead, this man is way too calm. Like, the guy knows stuff about his 11-year-old son, right?
To be fair, being calm might be the thing. Thing to do.
You gotta be calm with the crazy person. But I'm just saying, he seems overtly calm and, like, willing to talk to this guy. And then it just seems like he's willing to, like, go along with whatever this this weird thing is. So I can't tell if he, like, believes him or if he's just like, yeah, I'll go along with it. That's fine. It'll help him feel better. I don't know.
Well, I mean, he doesn't, because Martin's like, I'm home. I just need some rest. I'm clearly burnt out from work. Maybe this is just like some weird hallucination. I need to go into my house. I need to take some rest. So he wants to go in the house. And the dad's like, no, you're not going to go in there. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not letting you in the house. I'm going to shoot you with a shotgun that I clearly have because it's 1930 or whatever the hell year it is. And the dad is like, you really need to leave. And then the mom comes out, and Martin grabs the mom and is like, Mom, could you fucking tell it's me? I'm Martin. I'm Martin, god damn it.
I'm your
It's
son.
like shaking her.
Yeah, he's shaking her like crazy.
We learned that he had a sister. She died when she was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to show him his driver's license.
And she
the mom
slaps him.
Knocks him out of the hand and slaps him.
It's great.
That sets him back, too. Like, we get this classic zoom in on the face that the Twilight Zone would do, or like these dramatic, the old dramatic zoom in on the face type.
Right.
And he thinks, and he like pauses himself. And then he suddenly realizes that he wants to talk to Martin, and he runs off.
Yeah, he suddenly has this like, oh my god, I need to talk to him. I need to.
Does the dad reveal that he's not there, that he's at the park?
I don't remember if he does.
Because how does he think, why does he think that he must be at the park? Or why doesn't he think that he's not in the house? Because wouldn't that be what you would think, like, oh, he's in the house?
Maybe he remembers the day because he was carving the thing, and he's like, I remember going to the carousel afterwards, or something like that.
That's fair.
I think maybe he just remembers, like, if this is the day I was carving my name, I was also hanging out with my friends, we went to the carousel, like, we were in the park.
Okay.
Or I always spent most of my time in the park.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know why his bike would be at home. You'd think he'd have his bike, but...
So he suddenly wants to talk to Martin. He runs off. He goes to the park. There's a Dutch angle now to make you feel disoriented. There's a lot of people at this park. There's a lot of things going on. It's a summer night. They're all enjoying themselves. The merry-go-round's going around. And the merry-go-round is trying to make you disoriented, too, because it's spinning. It's all very good. There's a lot of... It's supposed to be, like, confusing. It's active. It works for me. Right. For just this little bit of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it being it works very well. He sees Martin on the merry-go-round, and he gets on.
Yeah, he just jumps on this thing.
Pretty well. And then, I guess this is some merry-go-round that you rent out, Serling was saying on the commentary. The writer commentary was talking about all of the different little details that are in this, about the movement of the camera, and how it all moves as he's chasing Martin, because he says, like,
Right.
Martin, Martin, and he starts chasing Martin around in the circle of the merry-go-round, and there's
And
like
it's,
this
like, from the
overhead
top
camera
down.
shot.
Yeah.
Which is it's a pretty good camera shot for a TV show from the 50s.
Right.
And all of this kind of stuff. And then Martin, little Martin, mini Marty,
Yeah, this man
falls
in
off-
a suit is tracing after you, so he's like running through the merry-go-round and then falls off the merry-go-round and hurts his leg.
And your dad probably said, if that man shows up again, like, run
run
home
away.
or something.
Right.
Yeah. So Marty falls off, breaks his leg. And as he does that, he ends up injuring the old Martin, because this is a
Connection.
time, it's
So he changed time, is I think what
Right.
happened.
Yeah, the doctor showed up and he's like, oh, well, now there's something wrong with the timeline and everything. So
We have to fix it.
a great shot here, and this actually holds the theory of it's a dream. Old Martin is walking through these kids, and they, like, ghostly kind of leave. Like, it's like, there's like a spotlight almost on him as he walks through the merry-go-round to go check on Martin, and he's, like, freaked out that he injured himself. The kids almost kind of angelically
Yes. They all like
getting enveloped in white.
Yes, and then they go into the darkness. It's like they all got off together and then slowly walked away. Like, nobody would have done that. It was a very weird...
It's eerie.
Yeah, it was very eerie.
And that's, I think, why it almost holds together more as being this...
Well, he went to the Twilight
Thoughts in
Zone.
his
It's the
head.
thoughts
True.
becoming reality. It's
Yep.
his nostalgia becoming a reality.
Yeah, it's
of,
this nostalgia
of
becoming
his
a reality.
own world going back into his hometown, and then it all breaking apart once he screws it up. Like, he screwed up his memories all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that is supposed to be what it is, that he screwed up his memories. That's a good interpretation of it. I know that's probably not what Sterling was going for, clearly, based on that lecture, but the death of the author out of it, you can gain that from this episode, and I think it works. The interesting thing about this, if you watch it back, he walks between these two girls on the merry-go-round, and he's an adult, so he doesn't fit.
Right.
He tries to get past this one girl, and he ends up jamming her leg, like squeezing her leg, like pinching it against the horse. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
Like, you try to, like, walk
Yes.
past somebody, and you, like... So he did that to this girl, and you can see it in her eyes that she's, like, in pain, but she doesn't want to break.
Oh.
And she does it... little girl, if you're out there, I mean, you'd be an old lady by now, but she does a very good job of staying in character, because
Yeah.
you can tell it hurt her.
Sure.
But she, like, presses
like, pinch,
on.
but she's just like, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. The commentary for the, pointed that out. I thought that was interesting.
This is when his dad shows up.
So he says that he just wanted to tell him, don't let it all go. You have to enjoy it all. Don't let any of it get away from you. And a silhouette appears around him, and he gives a soliloquy about how everything sucks now. Adult life sucks. It's nothing but pain and misery. You live and then you die, and life sucks for everyone, and it's just a big bowl of shit. And he's right. But,
But you
Sometimes
find those
you
little
gotta-
things, like a podcast or some video games or a book.
that's right.
Or some, like, wonderful adventure in the nature, and that's the good things that you can do. You just have to find the good things, which we can actually have this talk now with the dad. The dad comes back.
Because that's what the dad comes to tell
Yeah.
him. Yeah. He's
which
sitting at the
also
merry-go-round.
felt very... his whole brain is broken, and now he's like, I need my dad to come fix me so I can go home. Like, actually, like, go back to my time. That's where my head with this went,
Yeah.
Like, he didn't actually time
He
travel
didn't
per
time
se, but it's like
travel.
his
Yeah.
thing is...
Yeah.
It just came out, and now it's
Right.
reality.
Well, and even like you were saying, he has no internal monologue. He
It's all out.
He's doing it all. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like this is just the visualization of all of that. He tells old Martin
Dad Sloan.
that young Martin, Dad Sloan tells old Martin that young Martin is going to have a limp, but he'll be all right. And I was like, well, yeah, he'd have disappeared if he's not going to be okay. We know that
sure.
from Back to the Future rules. Dad says, you are Martin. You are 36. Your license expires in 1960. And he knows he came a long way in a long time. and he knows things that will happen. Martin tells the dad, like, I know some stuff's gonna happen. This is where I thought the dad was dead too, because he's like, he almost like wanted to tell the dad, like, you get cancer, you die, like, you have a heart attack,
you
like,
could
whatever.
be right. You could be right. I mean, he might be also saying, like, you said she shouldn't be here, and so you're like, what happens to your mom? Like,
yeah,
do you
and
know
he doesn't want
stuff
to tell
that's
the
about to
dad.
happen? Like, maybe,
Yeah.
is there stuff I need to know?
Yeah.
Martin. Yes, Pop. You have to leave here. There's no room. There's no place. Do you understand that?
I see that now, but I don't understand. Why not?
I guess because we only get one chance. Maybe there's only one summer to every customer. That little boy, the one I know, the one who belongs here, this is his summer, just as it was yours once. Don't make him share it.
Score is very sentimental at this point as well. It almost tries to make it like a poetic. To me, I think it's a lesson not to stay in nostalgia and not to stay in your own head about the nostalgia.
Right. You can't do anything about the past. You can't just like keep looking back. You have to look forward. You have to be in the moment.
He says, is it so bad where you're from? And he said, I just had to come back and listen to it and stop and breathe.
Maybe when you go back, Martin, you'll find that there are merry-go-rounds and band concerts where you are. Maybe you haven't been looking in the right place. You've been looking behind you, Martin. Try looking ahead.
You can stop and you can breathe and you can enjoy yourself and you can, like you were saying, find something nice in your world, in your time. Find that merry-go-round and go on it as an adult. Who gives a shit?
Find
if
that
that's
spark.
what makes you
Go
happy,
for a hike.
find what makes you
Swim.
happy.
Read a book, you know? Enjoy
Yeah,
drinks
like
with your friends. Do whatever.
This is a problem that we face in society now. People are like, oh, I wish we could make it great again, or we could go back to the past or whatever. And it's like, it was never that good. You have rose-colored glasses, you have nostalgia.
Yeah, there's always like nice things about it, right?
Yeah.
But you can always make those nice things happen now. Like, why not?
Yeah.
They don't have to be
Make
exactly
your own,
the same.
Make your world now. You can always enjoy the stuff from your past.
Oh, yeah.
And it always comes off as, I hope it doesn't come off as hypocritical coming from a podcast that's talking about
Past things.
old things. But our whole point is we want to have fun with these things, that you should have them for posterity. You should have them as, almost like Martin is being told in this. If you want to go back and you want to enjoy fucking Mighty Morphin Power Rangers because you put Day of the Dumpster on your shelf, if life is becoming stressful, go do it.
Go
but
enjoy
don't dwell.
Right.
Don't dwell in it.
Don't sit on it. That is not just like the only thing. Don't like put on those like blinders.
Your shelf should be ever expanding because you should be adding to the good things that are around you today. You should be enjoying the things that are around you today. Like you said, the activities and the outdoors, and always trying to make yourself continue to have memories and not dwell on only the memories that you had in the past.
Yeah. Shelf life lessons.
That's the shelf life lesson. That's why it's a heady episode, and I think that's why like I remember even watching it and being like, this one's got a deeper meaning.
Yeah, the deeper meaning is nice. The quirky lines and the quirky timeline of it.
Yeah.
You know.
He says, don't get bogged down in nostalgia. Don't take away something from others that others may enjoy just for your own benefit.
That too.
Star Wars fans.
That too.
Like,
people who are like, oh, I hate this, so you have to hate this. Just enjoy the things you like. You don't have to be spouting all the things you hate all the time. You're just going to feel negative. You're going to make yourself feel negative.
Well, again, coming from a podcast that purposely picks out things that we think are going to be fun to pick on.
But we still enjoy it. The thing is, I might say it's not on the shelf. I might say, I don't really like this, but I'm enjoying the discussion. I love talking about stuff. Okay? So there.
I would say it's more of if somebody else likes something, you
Let
don't
them
have
like
to berate them about it. I think we've made that pretty damn clear on this show. That even if we say we don't like it, we think it's garbage or whatever, that doesn't mean that you...
It's totally
that doesn't
fine.
mean you can't like it.
Absolutely.
The fuck do I care? It's not true. You are living in a false world. But that's okay.
So don't come at me and tell me I'm wrong, because I'm just not going to listen.
So he goes for one last ride on the merry-go-round. and it spins him back to the 50s, I guess.
I think
like
so.
It almost felt like that was the way to get back in.
I think so.
So he goes back to the drugstore, and there's loud youths and rock and roll is playing. So we're clearly in the 50s. Oh God, these fucking youths with their rock and roll and their their jazz cigarettes and what have you. And the guy at the counter is a young man now, and he asks for a chocolate ice cream with 3 scoops.
He asks
like,
for... Now, here's the thing. The man asks for a chocolate ice cream and 3 scoops, and then the guy goes, what kind? Do you want chocolate? And the guy... He said chocolate ice cream.
He said chocolate.
He said a chocolate soda or whatever the heck. Dude, pay attention.
They got that goddamn rock music on. I can't hear a goddamn thing. He says that the 3 scoops will be extra. It's 35 cents. And I was like, fucking take it. It's 35 cents.
Only 35 cents.
I didn't do it. Should I do the inflation calculator on that 35 cents?
Oh, I'm so curious.
Would be $3.73 today. I'd still fucking take it. 3 scoop of ice cream float at like a place. That's pretty good.
That's not even that bad. It would totally be like a $5 to $10 thing in this world. There is no way that it's only $3.
Well, I don't know. Like your ice cream place by your house, I can get a 2 scoop cone for like $3.50.
And then they give you like 4 scoops because they just aren't paying attention.
Because they get it wrong and they make a mistake and they just keep adding it on. We'll get to that story someday. I don't even know when. I had this like bulbous thing of ice cream that's like as big as my head because they fucked up and they didn't want to say anything. But that's not that like $3.73. That's probably about right.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So he is looking around and he's like, whatever happened to Old Man Wilson? He's like, Old Man Wilson, he died about 15 years ago. Oh, Rachel, I did write down. I wrote down, he asked for chocolate, dumbass. So there you go.
I'm so glad you caught it too, because I was just like, dude, he specifically asked for a chocolate.
Can't hear a goddamn thing in here. He says he doesn't want the soda anymore. He's got a bum leg now, so he can't like sit for a long period of time or his leg gives out. And he's like, did you get that in the war? And he's like, I don't think so. Now, I feel like his whole life would have changed because of this leg.
I also feel like his entire life would have changed because of this leg.
Clearly this would have
it's
caused
like the
some
moment,
sort of...
you know? All of a sudden, you don't save your little brother from drowning in the lake, and your entire life changes. So, like, you'd think...
Yeah.
That he'd have some sort of consequence. Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm living in a fucking crack house now. Jimmy Stewart in this role would have been interesting. I think Gil Young actually does a pretty good job.
No, I think he's fine.
He is like, you know what? And then they're like, oh yeah, the merry-go-round, they tore that down. And he's like, a little late for you. He's like, what? And he's like, a little late for you to be able to see it.
Right.
So I would be like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
This man. I think no wonder he didn't want the soda anymore. He's just like, God, I don't like this guy. I liked the old man who just kind of stared at me and was going like, what's with this guy?
The old man stared at me, but at least he didn't have a fucking attitude about it. So he walks out, and we get the closing narration as he gets back in the car. A changed man. Because now I think he's willing to now relax and like try to find the small things in life that even though if he's having a hard day at the office or whatever, he can find those things that he enjoys. That's what he needs to do, is like find like, okay, what's a merry-go-round in today's world? Is it a merry-go-round? Is it a play? Is it a movie? What is it that's gonna like make me feel good or whatever? Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. Rachel, what is the closing monologue that we get here from Serling?
Hopefully I found the right one. Martin Sloan, age 36, vice president in charge of media. Successful in most things, but not in the one effort that all men try at some time in their lives. Trying to go home again. Is that it?
Yeah, I've got like a whole big thing of it here, but I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, hold on.
It goes on forever.
And
the closing narration is
like
enormous.
all men, perhaps there'll be an occasion, maybe a summer night sometime, when he'll look up from what he's doing and listen to the distant music of a calliope, and hear the voices and the laughter of the people and the places of his past, and perhaps across his mind there'll fit a little errant wish that a man might not have have to become old, never outgrow the parks and the merry-go-rounds of his youth, and he'll smile then, too, because he'll know that it is just an errant wish, some wisp of a memory, not too important, really, some laughing ghost that would cross a man's mind, that are a part of the Twilight Zone. He does kind of just go on, doesn't he?
Yeah, he just goes on in that one.
But was he saying, like, might not have to become old, never outgrow the parks and the merry-go-round? I mean,
it's the
you
old
don't,
adage of
though.
put your childish toys away kind of thing.
But I think you can still
which
enjoy
I know we
those
disagree
things.
that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think
I
you
guess
can.
I do
think
disagree it now that you...
Yeah. Because we think that you should still be able to enjoy those things. You shouldn't make them your personality. You shouldn't gatekeep.
Right.
You can make that something that you enjoy as a side, as a hobby, but you do need to move on and find things that you can add to that.
Yes.
It shouldn't be
only
I
that
love
one
Star
thing.
Wars and that's the only thing that you have in your life to hold on to.
Right.
You need to
Broaden.
have
just a
other
little bit.
things. Broaden, yeah.
Because it'll bring
You
more
can always
happiness
love
to
it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, but you should always try to find something else, or at least try to enjoy other things as well. So, one thing that came up on the commentary from the writer that did this one, Rachel, that I thought was interesting just because of the way that he said it, because he said it very nonchalantly on the Blu-ray, was, oh yes, Gil Young, who eventually won an Oscar for supporting actor in the 60s, shot and murdered his wife in the 70s and then killed himself.
Oh my god, I was not expecting you to just, oh my god.
So, I guess Gil Young, the main character, Martin Sloan, in this, he did a Chris Benoit. He did a murder-suicide with his wife.
Oh my god.
So, he was 65, the wife was 31. They found that he,
half your age, okay.
Hey, I'm banking on that, thank you very much.
No, you're
so
not.
Then,
no, you're not. Take it back.
if I can get some hot piece of 31-year-old at a 65,
no, that's fine.
I'll take it.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Don't mean now. I mean when I'm in my 60s. What was I saying? No, so
he killed his wife.
Yeah, they don't know why he did it. There was no indication of there being anything like that would have given a reason. He was an alcoholic, though, by that point in his life. So, no idea.
So maybe it was something with the brain.
Yeah, but it was so, like, out of the blue, and it feels like this is probably, even though he won an Oscar, I can't remember what he won an Oscar for. I probably should know that if I look it up. But, like, this has got to be, like, one of his most everlasting things. But it was just so nonchalant when they were like, oh, yeah, 1978, he killed himself and his wife. It was just like, all right. He was married 5 times. After 3 weeks of marriage to Kim Schmidt, a 31-year-old German magazine editor, he's found dead in his apartment in Manhattan. Police surmise that Young shot his wife and then himself. He was face down on the floor of the bedroom, a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson pistol in his hand. His wife was found face down beside him. Young had apparently shot himself in the mouth, and the bullet exited the back of his head. His wife was shot in the back of the head. No suicide note was found. No motive was ever discovered.
Wow. That's insane.
So there you go. So yeah, maybe it was just some weird... Yeah, his brain was just gone or something at that point. Who knows? But he won the Oscar for They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Don't know what that is, but that's what he got it for.
Okay.
So Rachel, after that bleakness that I threw out there, I needed to because I was like, that came out of nowhere. So I had to mention it.
Oh, of course.
Does walking distance have shelf life?
For me, this one, I might put it on the shelf just because I do like the concept of it, and it is memorable, and I like kind of the idea and the story for it. There are those little clunky lines and the little clunky, like, timeline and stuff, but I feel like overall, it kind of has, like, that message that I feel like fits for a lot of people, and you can kind of relate to this one a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially when you grow older.
Oh, for sure. So for me, I love this episode. I think it is clumsy, but it's so sincere.
Yeah,
the score is great.
Yeah.
The acting is great. It just works. And I don't know why it works, but I mean, it is because the direction is great, and the acting is good, and the score is fitting, and it being so sincere, I think that the message is part of it too. I would have watched this then for the first time in my early to mid 20s, and I remember it being stirring. That it like stirred emotions for me.
Oh, sure.
Not as much in this particular rewatch because I knew what I was getting into, but I just remember being like, wow, that was actually very poignant, and it just felt different compared to the prior episodes.
Sure.
And it's interesting because in 16mm Shrine, which was the last Twilight Zone episode that we covered, it's a similar thing where this woman is just stuck in her past and cannot get over
Absolutely.
it. And she ends up literally stuck in her past. So this one, it almost seems like, look, the past could have been great. You could have had a really fun childhood or anything like that. But being stuck in the past is not the way to go. And like in this, he like learns like not to be stuck in the past. So it's almost like the sequel.
It is almost like, see, this woman got stuck. He didn't. He was able to move on and like grow.
Yeah.
He probably could have also gotten trapped, just as she did.
Yes.
But
yes.
he was
but
able
he
to
had
pull himself
learned
out.
the lesson.
Even his dad like helped pull him out technically of his own mind, out of his own past right there.
Mm-hmm. I think some of the people at the time mentioned that it's a very sensitive episode. Mm-hmm. It's a very sobering episode and everything, and there's not a hint of like irony with it, I guess, which that's why I'm saying like it's very genuine. It's maybe even compared to 60mm Shrine, which is like these old bags or whatever, that kind of thing. Even if the criticism that I've seen, like a little bit of it is like, not everybody has this like glowy side to their childhood or whatever. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be your childhood. It could be any
years. Point
it
in
could be
time.
your 30s. It could be when your kids were young. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's just hold on to those, but don't make it something that you dwell upon is the message. So
you get to keep
it's
them,
always
but
about,
you don't
like,
have to like focus
keep them and add on to them. Yeah. Which is kind of what shelf life is about.
That's right.
To be honest.
We
are.
Can keep this, but we also continue on and find others
we continue
that
on.
we can add to our collection.
That's kind of true.
It is.
That's kind of true. We kind of fit the message that this show is trying to tell you. So yes, for me, this is on the shelf. I love this one. So that was Walking Distance. It is on the shelf. When we come back, after word from our fake sponsor, which, by the way, remember, whatever that product is, you probably should not be using it in the current day and age. I'm just going to
Don't ever use it.
We will get into the next episode of The Twilight Zone, Escape Clause.
Twilight Zone has been brought to you by Johnson's Baby Powder and other fine baby products.
You know, if you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good-tasting a cigarette can be.
And we're back with another episode of The Twilight Zone. Rachel, what one are we covering this time? Oh, hang on.
We're going to be
yawning.
talking...
It's very... Folks, you have to understand, when we record The Twilight Zone, we do it super late because we're trying to get it in the mood. So, it's super late.
You didn't hear me? Nobody knew I yawned? I don't think you had to even say that.
You know what? I didn't even think about that. But you're right.
You act like they can see me.
And that we're doing this live.
So our next episode up
Terrible
is...
strain on the animators.
Animate. Oh, yeah, because they'd actually have to, animate you, because, it's fair.
Now Rachel is spinning her chair slowly back and forth because she's mad at me. And she's like, anytime I can do my job.
Our next episode is episode 6 of the Twilight Zone, Escape Clause, about a hypochondriac man sells the soul of the devil, becomes a giant asshole. That's about it.
Go ahead, say what you thought about this one. Go ahead, just be upfront about it.
I didn't
Rachel.
like this episode. It was a bad episode. This is a dumb episode. This man pisses me off.
Well, now it being a dumb episode does not necessarily mean it doesn't have.
That's also
shelf
very true.
life.
That's also very true.
So,
we'll find out.
We have to, yes. So yeah, a Faustian deal with the devil is made here between a man that is a hypochondriac. He doesn't want to die. Like that's his.
He's
biggest
afraid
problem.
of everything. He feels like everything makes him sick. Like even like if he had like the sniffles or he sneezed or something, oh my god, he's dying, and he's afraid of death. He's afraid of everything.
He's a huge asshole. He's a prick.
He's an ass before, and he's a bigger prick after.
Yeah. Have you ever seen this one before?
I feel like I have, but I have like no like memories of it.
Okay.
I must have seen it at some point.
I'll get into it when we get into the verdict about my memory of this one.
Oh,
interesting. This episode aired originally on November 6, 1959, written by Rod Serling and directed by Mitchell Leeson. We will get right into it here. Now, I did realize that November 6th, the other one was October 30th, was Walking Distance, so Walking Distance was technically their Halloween episode.
Oh.
Don't think that makes sense, right? Like, they should have, like, put something in there that was a little more spooky.
Yeah, something a little bit more of, like, that time. I don't know. It just seems a little
We haven't really watched one that's, like, spooky yet, though.
No.
And I don't know if we do for a while. Like, most of it is sci-fi.
2 episodes. A little creepy. It's the freaking Rapture one, Kevin.
That's not what happens in Time Enough at Last.
Well, okay, fine. Not the Rapture. But
I mean,
you know
yeah,
what I mean.
sort
it's
of.
the same
sort
idea.
Of, yeah.
Nuclear
Same idea.
explosion,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Everybody's gone.
Same idea. Yeah.
It's scary.
That would have been creepier, because, like, I guess this one has the devil in it, so maybe they could have just flipped them.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I could think of.
The devil.
So anyway, I'm the devil! He's the devil! What is that from? What is that? Because, like, now I can be like, I'm the devil!
Isn't that from,
Is that Seinfeld?
The devil's, advocate? I'm the devil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose that's pretty good. I'm the devil!
Isn't that what he does?
I think you're right. I think he does do that.
I'm the devil!
We make reference to that movie a lot for neither of us liking it. I thought you were doing David Putty, being like, "We're the devil!" So he's got the face painted. Ah,
I forgot it.
You stole my Jesus fish, didn't you? Yeah, that's right. Elaine would have been a better character. Elaine would have been a better character in this situation. If Elaine was playing the one that makes the Faustian deal, and Putty was his put-upon husband. Yeah, and she's just going, "Yeah, you made a deal with the devil, didn't you? Yeah, that's right."
Oh, that would be exactly what happens too. She would be like just so snarky with it.
So here we go. Let's roll right into Escape Clause. We pan down after of course, the usual thing. We pan down into the apartment and we get the narration right away. Rachel, I'll do the honors if you want to do the closing again.
Totally fine.
You're about to meet a I love to. This is a side note that we always have to do our best Rod Serling impression. It's just you just have to do it.
I didn't say
make sure you do your Rod Serling impression. You just started doing it. I had to stop myself from laughing because it's like Rachel started doing the voice. Because you just have to. There's a Twilight Zone podcast that the Seinfeld cast that I listened to recommended. Because, of course, these guys are dorky enough that they also listen to a Twilight Zone podcast.
Of course.
The Twilight Pone. They were like, yeah, it's a bad name. Good podcast. And they do the this Serling voice as well, but they come up with their gimmick is that they come up with their own narration about what the episode's about instead of using Rod's.
Mm-hmm.
But they do it in the voice as well. So, yeah. Everyone has to do it.
It's just so iconic. It's just so iconic. How do you not do it?
You're about to meet a hypochondriac. Witness Mr. Walter Bedecker, age 44. Afraid of the following: death, disease, other people.
I understand that
well,
one.
me too, I got that. Germs, draft, and everything else. He has no interest in life, and that's Walter Bedecker. One preoccupation: the life and well-being of Walter Bedecker. One abiding concern about society: that if Walter Bedecker should die, how will it survive without him? I think that describes the guy pretty well, actually.
Nobody needs this man.
But he thinks he's the greatest thing.
But he doesn't
And
do anything. He does
looks like
nothing
that-
good for mankind, all right?
He looks like the one actor that has a bit of the lisp that was the bad guy in Rogue One. Oh my god, it's gonna bother me.
He
it's
looks
not
like
Mads Mikkelsen.
He reminds me of a few different characters and or actors, or he just looks really familiar and I've seen him in other stuff.
Ben Mendelsohn. He looks kind of like Ben Mendelsohn.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is what he reminds me of. Yes. They could be brothers. It could be his dad.
This is David Wayne playing Walter Bedecker, which is a terrible name, by the way. And about 5 minutes into this episode, you get another one, Cadwalder. And it's like, these names are awful, Rod. Please change these names. They don't sound normal.
Yeah, the names are bad. Bad.
This guy's just an asshole. He's a terrible person. The score in this one, completely different from Walking Distance. Very goofy. There's a lot of plop, plop.
It's very silly.
Like, it's too silly. That's
clown silly.
Yeah, like, it wants this to be like this lighthearted Faustian romp about this guy selling his soul, and it's too much.
It's way too much.
A doctor is examining him and says that he's all good, everything is normal, he's perfectly healthy and fine, and Bedecker's like, what do you know? What about these pains that I have, and this sleepless nights that I've had? I haven't slept in 4 days. Well, and he's like, well, it's all psychosomatic. You're making this stuff up. It's all in your head. You're making yourself sick.
Right.
And these ailments are just manufactured. His inability to sleep is just nerves, and the doctor should just prescribe him like some
Xanax.
50s. Well, that wouldn't have been around yet, but just like
saying.
some opium. He probably could have gotten him some opium. You know, some really strong Benadryl. Just
right.
like. And
just
that would
take
just
the
be
entire
like,
bottle of Tylenols.
Just to, like, pacify this guy. Just to be like, yeah, here, take this. You'll be fine. If it ever happens again, tell your wife, and I'll put in a prescription for it, and she can get it for you. Because it's like, that won't do him any harm, but it'll keep him out of everyone's hair.
I guess,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
Well, because he's, like, torturing his poor wife, too. The doctor actually looks at her and goes, you have to deal with all this shit from this guy. You look like you need something. This
man is just awful to this wife. If this would have been reversed and she would have killed him, I don't think any jury in the world would have convicted her.
I wish
because he's just such a prick. He calls
this
the doctor.
Is the worst man cold I've ever seen. Like, he is worse than, like, if he actually had a cold and he, like, you know what I'm talking about when I say man cold, right?
No.
Okay, so a lot of the time, there's, like, this thing, right? It's all very, you know, silly, but it's like, oh, a woman, she gets sick, but she has to keep moving, she has to keep doing her stuff, but she, like, tries to work through it. A man will get a cold, and he'll be like, I'm sick, can you take care of me? And he just, like, can't do anything, and he just has the sniffles. So a man cold...
I can't say I've heard about this.
A woman has a cold and just keeps powering through it. A man gets a cold and is like, I can't move. I can't function.
Is this part of your stand-up routine?
No, I don't
Woman get a cold, be like this. I'm kidding. I've not heard of such things because I I don't know if I've experienced this. Does your husband do this, Rachel? Is he like, I'm sick, I need some
When
soup?
he does like being taken care of when he's sick. He's more of like the
All right. What part of is this like
see,
a,
all you
is
have to
this
do is
like-
look up like the man cold. Refers to the idea that a man handles his cold and flu worse than a woman.
Maybe it just affects men
It might be a
differently.
real thing. It might be just
Yeah.
how it affects people, but like it's just like the man flu or the man cold. I just think it's kind of funny. It is like a stereotype. It is like a joke, I think. I would call it a joke more so than...
Sure. Oh, sure. I'm sure it's more like just some observation. I'm sure it's like something where
But they act like it's the end of the world is kind of the joke.
I'm guessing it's probably something where if you looked in psychology, it would be like, when they were babies and they were little kids, their mommies would take care of them. So now they expect that.
That is probably
I'm
the
sure that's-
psychology behind it.
I'm sure that's the psychology.
No, I would
of it, yeah.
imagine.
I was gonna say, I think I've been giving women the man cold my entire life because they always act like I'm gonna make them sick, so they stay away from me. See, that's the man flu. Oh, get away from me.
I think that's just anybody sick, get away from me.
Yeah, but that's the joke that I have. I can spread the man flu by nothing. No, I'll workshop it. I'll get it there. So anyway, he calls the guy a quack. The acting by David Wayne of Bedecker, I think, is what they're going for. I wouldn't say it's bad. It's over the top, but I
it's
think
very
that's what
over
they
the
want
top.
him to do. They want him to
Absolutely.
be just this absolute awful prick. Just this guy that you just want to punch in the face. You just want to punch this man in
You really
the face.
do.
He's
He deserves
awful.
a punch in the face.
So the wife comes in, and like you said, the wife looks like she needs to get some sleep. The wife looks like the one that is having to put up with this bullshit.
Yes.
Like, truly. She truly does. She says, like, is he okay? Like, is everything okay? And Bedecker's like, don't ask him, he's an idiot. Fucking moron doctor.
So they leave
He
the
blames
room
it-
to talk about him then instead.
He
'cause-
blames his wife.
Yes.
He's like, you see, it's all this, she's poisoning me. She would love to see me dead. Wouldn't you, Ethel? You'd love to see me dead, wouldn't you?
He's so, like, why are you with him? Leave him. Leave him. Just
Well,
leave.
It's the 50s. It might be a little more
He
difficult.
could, I mean, it's abusive.
It would probably be easier to shove him down.
Honestly, I think she should poison him. Or shove him down the stairs. You're right.
Well, he thinks that she's poisoning him. Like, he accuses her of it.
Yes.
He's like, she makes me think I'm sick, and then I end up being more sick because of it.
You've been like this your entire life, buddy.
And the doctor's like, you know what? I'll call again tomorrow. And he's like, well, just come over with the death certificate, because I'll be dead in the ground. I don't, like, this guy. Do people like this exist?
Oh my god.
Like, just like, it would be so exhausting if someone was just like, yeah, I'll probably be dead tomorrow. Like, that's the attitude that he has.
It's kind of nuts. Because it's not like he's saying like, oh, I'll be dead because of X, Y, and Z. He's like, I have to be sick and this is happening and something's wrong with me. I'll be dead. It's like, what? The man just said you're healthy.
Yeah, and he tells the wife, like, oh, you'd love to see me gone, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? It's like, you know what, man? I wouldn't blame her if she was like, you know what, Walter? Well, she does do that later. So, like, okay, we'll get to that. He's just this terribly irredeemable asshole. And you get that from
Yes.
square one. God, just this awful human being. So they leave the room, and she asks the doctor, how is he really? Like, now that we're out here and you didn't want to, like, how is he actually? And he's like,
Yes.
he's one of the healthiest patients I have. There's nothing wrong with him. There's something wrong with you. You need to take some vitamins, because clearly having to deal with him, and, like, I feel like he's the type of guy that would, like, have, like, a pot and be like, Ethel!
Oh my God.
I need you!
He does.
I need you!
Well, like, while she's talking to him about getting the vitamins, you hear him scream, Ethel, there's a draft. I feel a coma coming on.
Is that what he says?
Yes!
Yeah, just this,
I think,
like...
I don't know if he says, I feel a cold coming on, or if he sees, but the
I think he said...
subtitles, I think, picked it up
Oh,
wrong.
the subtitles
The
picked it up
subtitles
coma.
say coma, which honestly, I could also see him saying.
Oh, yeah. You know, giraffes give you comas, Ethel! Ethel! She's gone. She's gone. Bitch left me.
Good for her.
She left me.
Good for her.
Like, I do feel like he's the type of person that is constantly, like, thinks that his wife is going to leave him. I'm kind of shocked that at some point in this episode, he didn't think that she was having an affair with the doctor. Like,
oh my
the
God,
characters
right?
that are in the...
Oh, you're just having an affair with him. You both want me dead, because if I'm out of the picture, you get to be together. Like, I could see that
But
being a
honestly,
part of it.
that could have been an interesting wrinkle in the story.
Oh, it would have been great. Because then maybe
Because
he
then
kills
he's like-
the doctor and he kills his wife, like, on purpose.
And the reason that he takes the deal is because he thinks that the wife's trying to kill him.
Yeah.
So then if he takes the deal, she can't kill him. Like, that could have been
That could have been interesting. And then he was all wrong about all of it, but he really thought that was, like, what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's how the devil tricks him, because he's, like, using his insecurities about his wife and stuff. The doctor gives her a prescription to take some vitamins, which, did you need a prescription for vitamins? I guess he needs to write down, like, go get these vitamins.
Yeah, he
'cause,
maybe he's, like, telling her, like, what vitamins to get, or, like, what she needs. Or if there's, like, something specific.
She's gonna go back in the room and check on Walter, and she takes the prescription in with him, and I'm thinking, don't take that prescription in with your abuser there.
Right.
You know what this man is gonna do the second he sees a piece of paper in your hand.
Right.
And he asks Ethel, how many germs are in the air, Ethel, in a cubic feet, or whatever he says. Square foot, or whatever. And it's 8,900,000. So she's, like, heard this a million times about how many germs are in the air.
Yeah, because she says it too, right?
Now look, folks, and folks at home,
But
if you're a
it's
little...
so hot and, like, stuffy in that room. He's like, you need to cool off
well,
in
that's
here.
that's what she says. Like, she's like, he said that you needed some fresh air. And... you can't just, like, be so stuffy in this room. The fucking devil says that it's too hot in the room,
he goes,
okay?
God, it's hot in here. If he says it's hot in there, it's stupid. It's stupid hot.
He sees the prescription, he yanks it out of his hand, and he's like, oh, obviously he's lying. He's telling me I'm fine, and he's telling you that I'm dying. I don't know what advantage that would give the doctor to be like, oh yeah, he is dying. Just let him die. Like, what does he think?
I don't know. Apparently he thinks he's just that important that everybody just wants him dead. I don't get it. Honestly, I want him dead, so maybe he's right.
That's true. I do want him dead. But... So we find out that then she admits that, like, oh wait, no, the vitamins are for me. And he's like, the vitamins are for you. I lie here, dying to die. Yeah,
and you get
and
vitamins.
He's prescribing you vitamins. He talks to God or something. Like, he, like, looks up at the heavens. And he's like, do you see what I have to deal with? Where he's like, you know, doing like this, like, can you believe this kind of thing to the heavens.
Yeah. Right.
And she tries to, like, fluff up the pillow and, like, make him comfortable. And he's like, get out of here, Ethel. Let me die
he's,
in
like,
peace.
acting like he has, like, a fever. Because he's got, like, all of this on him and it's so hot in there. Yeah, and then she said, okay, fine. And he's like, oh, see, you meant that you want me to die. And she's like, oh my God, I just said I was just going to leave you here, like, alone. I was just letting you nap. Like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, she's like, he's just like, all right, Walter, I'll leave, I'll let you be. And he's like, whoa. So I guess this is kind of your point, Rachel, because he, like, wants to be waited on hand and foot, but he wants to bitch about it.
Oh
every
my
single
God.
fucking second too. So maybe this does fit your man cold theory.
Maybe this is where it came from. This is the
like,
man cold.
She's like, you know what, Walter? I'm gonna go out. I don't know when I'm gonna be back. Why don't you fucking sleep or jump out the window or something? And he's like, and she's like, so then she has to, like, backtrack on it, and she didn't even say anything.
Right.
And then she's like, I just said that you could take a nap. And he's like, why does a man have to die? Why? Why does this have to happen? And he's like,
why can't a man live for 500 years, 1,000 years? It's like...
Yeah. And then he tells her to go away.
Yep.
Just miserable.
Miserable.
And this woman has to be miserable.
Poor woman.
He starts looking at himself in the mirror to see, like, he's doing like that, like, you know, looking in his eyes and like that kind of stuff.
The tongue. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what the hell's he gonna do? And he's just deplorable. And he says, why can't I live another couple hundred years? And then he hears a disembodied voice say, why not 1,000 or 500 or whatever it says. You're right. To do Cadwallader, you need to like move your lips as far apart as possible.
You just gotta go like, oh. 3.5, 3.25. Like, I feel like
that is kind of that guy.
He is the freaking Undertaker from Robin Hood Men in Tights. He might as well have been that over the top. Like, I can't wait.
This is Thomas Gomez. Unfortunately, he died before Robin Hood Men in Tights, but I would not have put it past him if it was. So I think he played a character actor in some different stuff. But actually, I'm not even sure if it really is Thomas Gomez. I think it might be Paul Heyman.
Okay.
Because I don't know, Rachel, but I think that Paul Heyman, at the very least, based part of his character, his wrestling character, off of Cadwallader.
If he didn't, I would be surprised. Like,
doesn't he have?
He does.
He's got some of those well, now Mr. Bedecker, and
yes,
I've seen Paul Heyman do those.
He
faces.
He does do those.
I'd be very interested, Mr. Heyman, if you could please to let us know, is part of the gimmick Cadwallader? Because, you're always supposed to be, the slimy, sleazeball-y, I'm the wise man. So, I could see Cadwallader being an influence here, because it's just, well, Mr. Bedecker, we're going to go through your contract now. I could see Paul Heyman be like, oh, Cody, you think that you're going to get out of this one, but Roman and I are going to stop you. I've got Brock Lesnar on the next line, and he's going to take you out, Mr. Bedecker. It fits that same way.
It really does.
He says his name is Cadwallader. Cadwallader. I keep saying I want to keep Cadwallader. That is worse than Bedecker. Somehow that name is worse than Bedecker. He goes, I like the way that it rolls off the tongue.
The tongue.
Cadwallader.
It's like, what am I watching? I went from this deep episode into this clown of an episode, all right?
But that is the point of Twilight Zone. It could be anything anyway.
Oh, sure.
To be fair.
This is a clown, all right? Everybody's a clown.
A clown. You are a clown. Yes, everyone is super over the top. He comes with his own,
he does.
Music as well.
He's the devil.
He's the devil.
So yeah, that's kind of it.
So Bedecker asks him, how did you get in here? And he's like, oh, I've been here. I have not been gone. I've been here all along, Mr. Bedecker. I actually like the over-the-top performance.
Oh, I feel like
supposed to be.
Yes, I like it. I like the idea of him being so over-the-top and dramatic. I feel like it works, but this guy's such a dick that it just ruins everything else.
Yes. Tells Bedecker oh man, Kevin, what did you write? Hang on, it's all a typo. Here's what I wrote.
Okay.
Or here's what it says. Tells Bedecker he has a nimpch of thongs he could show him. Oh, number of things he could show him. Okay, I got it. So he's like, I truly did not know. Sometimes if I have the typo there, I know what I meant. Sure. But I was like, what the hell was I trying to say? Okay.
That's an interesting one.
He asked Bedecker, why is he asked Cadwallader why he's here, and Cadwallader says, oh, I have a number of things I could show you, Mr. Bedecker. Oh, yes. Some delightful sights to show you. I could show you so many delightful things. And I thought he was going to turn Pinhead for a second. And he's like, okay, what is your name again? And he's like, well, what's in a name, Mr. Bedecker? Just semantic. This is where I was like, okay, now he's doing a bit.
Yeah, now he's totally doing a bit.
He's getting so into it. Semantics, really? A stretch of words. Just like this. It's like he's doing. It's like he's. You know what else it could be? Jiminy Glick. It could be Jiminy Glick. Could be based on Cadwallader as well. So Martin Short, did you watch Escape Clause and you were like, yep, I'm gonna do Jiminy Glick? Have you ever watched any
Is it just? I don't think I've ever seen it, but I've when I saw the picture of him, I can imagine it.
Yeah.
I think I've probably seen clips or something.
Yeah.
But
yep.
Is that just? Is it all coming from this character?
I kind of
Or
wonder,
is there
like,
another
Paul-
character out there that they're all taking it from?
that they're all taking it from?
Including
Maybe.
the devil.
Yeah.
And the devil's like, I love this. I love this bit. I love this gimmick. Oh, I can't wait to try it
Oh,
on
you
this guy.
think the in-character in this Twilight Zone universe devil is like,
yeah.
you know what? I'm going with the Jiminy Glick character this
Damn
month.
straight.
I'm going to go. That's what I want to do. Okay.
Uh-huh. He's just
I
like,
like
oh,
that.
this will be a good one. This will be a good one. It's gonna really grind those gears.
I
of
was
some
watching
people.
Saturday Night Live, and I saw that Martin Short fellow. I'm a big fan. And he was doing this character, a big fat man, and I thought, oh, I think I'll do that this time while I'm trying to capture these souls. But I didn't like the name Jiminy Glick, so I went with Cadwallader.
Cadwallader. It just rolls off the tongue.
Watch like a 30-second bit of Jiminy Glick, Rachel. You'll get the idea. Go ahead. I'll wait.
Oh, okay.
Now Rachel wants to watch the entire thing. It's basically just Martin Short trying to make other people laugh.
That face he just made. Alright. Anyways,
Okay.
it's probably enough.
I think it's a funny character. So Cadwallader asks what he wants, and Bedecker says he wants an expanded lifespan. He wants immortality. And he's like, well, why be imposing about it? Let's not call it immortality. You just want some additional free time. And I'm like, yeah, of course the devil's like, oh yeah, we'll just give you some free time, because in the end, he's going to win. Like, that's what's so stupid about all of this. It's like, Bedecker at no point is like, oh, I shouldn't make a deal with the devil.
No, he never even thinks this
He
is a bad
never
idea.
questions
Not
it.
once.
No, because in some ways he seems worse than Cadwallader.
I think he is worse.
And this little item that you want in return, what do we call that?
Well, what could we call that? We could call it a little piece of your makeup, a crumb off the crust of your structure, a fragment of an atom of your being, or a...
Or what?
a soul.
You're the devil.
At your service.
A soul. And he's like,
soul.
this is where Bedecker becomes the Green Goblin for a second, because he's like, you're the devil, aren't you?
Yeah,
like,
he does.
like,
You might as well be the Green Goblin.
and Cadwaller's like, yeah, of course I am. And he's like, but he just does not seem shocked about it at all.
Not at all.
Like, you'd piss your pants and have a stroke if someone showed up unannounced in your home.
Oh, absolutely.
And was like, I will give you immortality. And you were like, are you the devil? And they were like, well,
Yeah.
yes, actually I am. You'd be like, Mother of God, where is my holy water? Please leave my home. I need to get an old priest and a young priest
But
now.
he's a bad person. So he's like,
Well,
this
clearly.
is fine. This is
is
actually what I
fine.
wanted. I've been waiting for you.
He has! He has been waiting.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be a good twist if somehow he outsmarted the devil and he took his place?
Yes.
Or something, and Cadwallader had to become,
Ooh.
like, immortal?
How interesting would that have been?
That would be it'd almost be like a twist on top of a twist, because you need Bedecker to get his comeuppance.
Oh, yeah.
So you need him to lose.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, now he has to spend eternity, and Cadwallader gets to be a mortal man again or something. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think,
Ooh,
like,
I see
what
what
could
you're
be that.
saying.
Like, Cadwallader wants to be mortal, so he,
right,
like,
so he's trying to
flips
steal
it on him, and he's like,
yeah.
I'll let you be immortal, and whenever you say, and you'll still be immortal, and it's like he actually flips it, and, like, he ends up, like, not having to be the devil or something. I don't know.
No,
Could've been a way
I
to go.
could see that. I could see that going somewhere like that. I like it.
So, this guy is such a prick that the devil does not faze him. And he's like, well, why not live forever? And Bedecker goes on, and Bedecker will continue on, and while countries will come and go, empires will rise and fall, people will die, but Walter Bedecker will still be here. And Bedecker gets up and he looks in the mirror, and he's like, well, this is all I care about, so I
Right,
guess
because
I'll
he doesn't
do
want
it.
death.
And he does think to say, now, wait a minute. Because you are the devil, Cadwallader, Are there any hidden tricks here? Anything that I should think about? Any, like, things that we needed to discuss?
Yeah, like, will my appearance change? Like, how is that gonna work?
And he's like, no, you'll look the same. And actually, Cadwallader is like, oh, Mr. Bedecker, you drive a hard bargain. You won't age. You'll be fine. It doesn't matter how much time passes. You'll be around for thousands of years, and you'll still be Bedecker.
Mm-hmm.
He brings out the contract at this point, and Bedecker's like, okay. But then when he's like, oh, there's just a couple of things in this contract to go over with you. And Bedecker's like, oh, here it comes. Here's the sales pitch and twist from the devil, because of course I knew this was going to happen. Well, piss off, Cadwallader. And he's like, no. It's for your benefit.
Right.
It's an escape clause.
However, there is one thing.
Now it comes out. Good day, Mr. Cadwallader.
Oh, it's for your benefit, I assure you. Article 93, yes. Here it is. Well, it's in the nature of an escape clause. Your escape clause.
You get the escape clause in the titular escape clause. In case he wants to stop living for any reason, he can exercise the escape clause to furnish his, well, let's just call it your demise, and we can do it quickly. Now, the devil is in your
honestly,
bedroom.
Not a bad deal, right? I get to live forever, but if I'm done living forever, because eventually you'd probably get lonely and sad and whatever, you know, and now he's
That's
like, okay,
the
you
way
know
they
what, I
could
want
have
it
taken
done.
this, though.
He could just be done. But that's why this annoys me. That's why I don't like what happens.
I agree with you. So he ends up signing the contract with the escape clause in it, because he's like, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to be around forever. You're never going to get my soul because I'm going to be around for millions of years. And Cadwallader summons a pen and says, God, it is freaking hot in here. And he brings out a smoking stamp, and the goofy score goes again because he's like,
oh my God, the way he, like, does that and it, like, sticks to the stamp like it's not actually supposed to, and he, like, has to rip it off of it.
Yeah, that was okay.
I thought it was kind of funny because I don't think that was
bad.
supposed to happen, but he just kind of was like, yeah, I'll just let it happen. Yeah, then it does, like, the whomp whomp stuff, but...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it works, though.
He disappears, and Bedecker's alone with the contract. He's like, well, this seems to all be in order. He puts it in his robe pocket. Okay.
Right.
He has to test his immortality now. So he touches the... What is that called? Is that, it's not a humidifier.
Radiator?
The radiator, yeah.
Yes.
So he touches the radiator, and it indicates that it's burning his hand because it's like there's steam coming up. Now, Rachel...
it's so hot. We have touched radiators like this.
Our grandma had a radiator.
It was like a bench.
We used to... It was a bench. It was the greatest thing in the winter because you could just lay on it and
the
like
coveted
fall asleep.
radiator where you could everybody would want to
spot.
sit on that thing because it was so warm. It would get so hot.
You'd have to get off of it after a period of time.
You'd have to like sometimes
hot.
you could put like a blanket on top so you could like kind of have like a thing between you.
But speaking of walking distance, like I remember like Sunday afternoons watching football with grandma, and like we would both end up like taking a nap because I'd be like laying on the radiator and she'd be on the couch. He laughs maniacally because it doesn't faze him. There's just steam coming off of his hands, but he didn't get hurt or anything by this. And he throws out the medicine. He throws it out the window like a fucking psycho.
Right.
Like a bunch of glass just out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks crazy as Ethel walks in. He's like,
becomes
behold.
crazed immediately.
He looks evil. Like this guy could have been like a really good version of like an evil character.
Oh, he could have
like
immediately become a supervillain. Immediately.
Yeah. Because he's like, behold, the new Walter
But he's
Bedecker.
not intelligent, and we'll find that out.
There's more goofy music when he says that, too. That whole thing is just Act 1. It's just this big, long act.
Mm-hmm.
And then this
is
where I think...
It does feel like a play. Like, this whole thing could be a play.
But I think this is where you and I end up having problems with this episode.
Oh, immediately I hate it.
Because it feels like some scenes were missed.
Like, did we just miss
We missed
years?
some progression.
Or what?
Yeah. Because the next thing we see is him in a suit at the subway, and he's bored standing there waiting with people, and a train comes by, and he jumps in front of it, going under, which I did not expect. I was like, whoa!
No, he, like, just
did not think
nosedives
that you could
into
do
this
that.
thing.
Yeah, like, I was surprised that you could show that on TV, because I was like, he just jumped right in front of a train.
Yep.
It passes, And the people are all like, oh my god, they're like all freaking out. And he's been like flattened by this, but he gets up with this tattered suit on now. And he's helped up back onto the...
And he's fine.
And he's fine. They ask him if he's okay, and he's like, I'm fine, but go get your claims adjuster.
I'm like...
I have a bone to pick with him.
I'm like, so he's just trying to do fraud?
So, here's the thing. I'm slightly okay with this.
Like, I guess he's just trying to get money? Like...
Yeah, because I like the fact that it's just so small and petty. Like, that is
so
okay.
petty. It's fine. Like, I'm like, okay, I guess he's just going to do, like, a bunch of fraud cases where he keeps getting hurt or injured.
Yeah.
And then getting the money from them. Like, you know,
Yep.
He goes to McDonald's and spills the coffee on his lap and then says it was too hot.
That was a legitimate injury, but yes,
That's correct.
That's true. Yeah.
Actually, I think they did turn the temperature down, too. But
they had to, yeah.
Yeah, because it was scalding.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what he's doing. He's just, like, doing a bunch of fraud cases. But I'm like, okay, and interesting. Like, this is immediately out
like,
the like...
I guess it's supposed to be, like, he's just such a miserable prick that he can't think of anything good to do with his immortality. He's committing a bunch of petty fraud. Yeah, like, that's the best he can think of.
Yeah, that's the best he can do. And then, so then the guy comes and he's like, it's $1,000. So he's like, okay, that's it? That's all I'm getting? He's like, well, you're not hurt. Yeah. You're not injured.
Yeah, you didn't get injured or anything, so...
And honestly, he should have been fined because he endangered everybody else by trying to commit suicide. Everybody saw him jump in front of that train. He didn't fall. He didn't make it look like, oh, I tripped. He nosedived in front of that train. Honestly, he should have gotten fined for it.
Yeah, there's a possibility. I mean, yeah, you can be tried for
endangerment of others.
You're right. The guy leaves him a check for $1,000, and as he's leaving, another claims adjuster walks in and is like, "You too, huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, bus accident." It is funny. It is like something that's like
it's
interesting.
It's silly.
I do like when he makes the second guy leave. He's like, "I'll take your money, but you bore me."
Right.
He just cannot find anything good to do with his life.
Yeah, his wife is just shaking her head like in the background, like, what are we doing? What is this?
But doesn't this feel like this should have happened? I'm trying to think of like, and I think that the podcast that I talked about uses the same analogy, but it is a good analogy. I'm trying to think of another potential one that it could be, but like, don't you think that he would have done like Groundhog Day? Don't you think that he would have done a bunch of other stuff first? Tried to
like
do
he
stuff?
Actually isn't afraid of everything anymore. I'm gonna go like out in the world,
climb a mountain.
I'm gonna eat a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna go like do things. No, he gets bored immediately, not being able to die.
Yeah, and all he wants to do is try out different ways to die. But because there's no risk in it, he doesn't have any satisfaction in it anymore.
It's boring.
It's such an odd... Like, I do understand it. I do understand where the writing is coming from, but it just seems like something's missing.
So I think a part of the contract, and something that I would think is missing from this, is that he... not being able to die without having that risk, he doesn't really have feeling anymore. You know, he can't get excited. He can't get, like, any of those feelings anymore. So that's what I think is missing. And that's what he's trying to search for, is that excitement, that, like, drive. And he has none.
But he didn't have it beforehand. And I think that's my problem. If he would have done a bunch of stuff, like, positive stuff, like that we would have seen... then he could have been like, oh, without the risk of like being a mortal, it's not the same as I thought it was going to feel, or something like that. And then he goes into like a depression of like, I'm gonna see if I can just kill myself, or like maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll like deliberately do it because I haven't been deliberately doing it.
Or it's like I don't have enough money to actually do anything, so I guess maybe I could use this to my advantage, and then like does something like that.
Like I need to get money to be able to do this stuff or whatever. Yeah, I think this was done better in the Family Guy episode where Death sprains his ankle and Peter is supposed to become Death, but death doesn't exist, and Peter, like, gets alcohol poisoning, and he jumps off the roof.
Right.
He does all that stuff because he's like, there's, like, a purpose to it. Like, that even would have been better if he's, like, betting people that, like, I bet you I can,
do something
drink this poison. Yeah.
Right.
Bedecker paces around the room, and he tells Ethel that he's had 14 accidents, but no element of thrill, and it's dull, and he's bored with it. And I'm like, why doesn't he just tell her? Why is he holding back the fact that he made a Faustian deal?
I think he did tell her.
He does tell her at one point, but he says that I made a deal with a man named Cadwallader. He doesn't say what he really did.
Yeah.
And she tells him to count his blessings. And he's like, there's no good to immortality without any excitement.
See, like, that's the point. Like, yeah, but we never even saw you being excited about it. You're just immediately trying to be a grifter. Like, I don't understand. Like, you're already a scumbag, and now you're a grifter.
And maybe Serling just felt like this character is just such a prick that he couldn't find excitement, but it's like, then you have to, like, tone it down a little bit. And he has to, like, he has to be flawed, and then he has to become a super prick as the...
Right.
That's his
flawed,
turn.
But at least you, like, feel for him, but you never feel for him.
No. He goes into the bathroom and he makes himself some sort of death cocktail. And I'm like, why is he doing
it's definitely
this?
A death cocktail. Just to feel thrill of dying.
Why is he's trying to get, like, a kick out of suicide? It's just, it's very odd for this character.
This is a really weird thing to me, because it's just like, I guess he's just doing the, what's the point of living if I can't die? What's, like, I guess,
but that should be the lesson. That should be the lesson, and he never gets to that point
because he just feels bored. I don't know. I just don't get it.
I get it's like if he's so worried about this death that's all he's ever thought about, I guess, and he thought that death would be exciting. So then if he was mortal, it would have been something to be exciting because there'd be risk to things and. I don't know. It's an odd thing for him to learn.
It made sense. Like, I can't do anything because I'm afraid of everything and I don't want to die. And now I have immortality. I'm gonna go do those things that I was afraid of. But instead, it's I'm gonna go try to kill myself and become a grifter.
Ethel is freaked out. Bedecker says he's immortal and indestructible and says Cadwallader helped him do this. Ethel says, "I'll call the doctor." And Bedecker's like, "No, don't call the doctor. You'd be a better help if you found something exciting for me to do." He's just so mean to this woman. He's
my God, he's horrible to her.
Help me find something exciting. So he's like, you know what I'll do? I think I'll go
jump off the roof.
Yeah. There's no risk. Why would it be something to do? Like, why is that the next thing he thinks of doing? I don't get it. So she is up there and she's like, I'll get you something.
Before he even gets running up the stairs to the top, he tells her to go drown in a tub.
Is that what he says? I thought he meant, like, why don't you take, like, a bath and, like, relax or something. I'll be fine.
Let me make sure that it didn't go nuts again with the subtitles.
No, I bet you're right, because this guy is irredeemable.
Go drown in a tub, Ethel.
Okay.
Horrible man.
Yeah, he's awful. She promises to make him some potato pancakes.
Yes.
Which just sounds pretty, like, pathetic.
Sounds kind of.
I like potato pancakes.
I like potato pancakes, but she said it's like your favorite thing. I'll make you potato pancakes. Like, she loves this man for whatever reason, all right, and is willing to make his potato pancakes, all right.
It feels like there's supposed to be some old knowledge here of, like, him not being this miserable man. Like at some point he would have been like, oh, she made potato pancake. Yeah.
Like something happened to him and he became afraid of everything, right? Is that what we're led to believe? And then she's just trying to take care of him so that he's not so freaked out, and then all of a sudden he has immortality and now he's trying to die. I don't get it. And she's just wanting to bring him back.
She tries to stop him, but she's in front of him and she slips and falls to her death.
Yes.
And he lights up a cigarette, and he says, I wonder what that felt like. And then he goes back inside, so he doesn't care in the least. So, like...
And that's what I'm thinking, like, he doesn't have any feeling at all, but, I mean, he also acted like this before that, so I just...
Well, because even the thoughts of, like, people dying around him as he gets older, like, he wouldn't have given a shit, because he only cares about himself. He is a gigantic narcissist.
Yes.
So... He calls the police and said he killed his wife, and
he goes, "Yeah, hurry, emergency."
Yeah, he's like, I'll give the electric chair a whirl. And it's like, what is your end game here, dude? You know this isn't going to work, and what do you think they're going to do to you if it doesn't work?
But, like, I guess his whole point is, like, I don't feel it, so I just have to keep escalating? But... No.
Okay, the electric chair doesn't work. Does he think that means, okay, you're free to go?
Yeah, I don't know what he thinks.
Think
I don't know what he
do?
thinks. It was stupid. But, like, I think that's his whole deal, right? Is he's just trying to get a thrill and to feel something, and nothing is giving him the thrill, nor does he feel it.
Right.
But it's it's poorly done. This was poorly done.
In jail, his attorney says he is doing terrible in this case. He's a very tough client. He clearly wants to be convicted. And the attorney starts to pull some stuff out to go over with him, and he's like, put it away. He says, you know what's going to happen to you? Death penalty. Like, you're going to get the death penalty. And he's like, yeah, well, I do like this line where he says,
Mr. Cooper, the only thing they'll get for their pains if they try to burn me is a staggering bill for electricity.
That's a good line. Is this entire episode because of that line? Did somebody say something silly and they're like, we could make a whole episode about that?
The idea of a Faustian deal has been around for hundreds of years,
sure.
and it's a good idea, but yeah. I thought for a second the attorney was going to turn into Cadwallader. If not here, then in another scene.
Yeah.
I thought that's where it was going. During the sentencing, Bedecker appears to be uncaring. He's like got his head like, all right, let's hear what you have to say, Judge.
Yeah, he's so bored with everything.
And the court sentences him to life. And the attorney congratulates him because the attorney thought he did his job by keeping him out of the electric chair. And that, of course, means that he can't get out, which I don't think is what life means. I think life sentences are like 30-year sentences.
There's actually a time period with it, and then half the time they only spend so many years, and then they get to try to get out again.
Will be like, you're going to serve 20 life sentences.
Right.
Because it's not like, it's like an actual time period, and you have to serve a life sentence before... Yeah.
You can even try to go back and say, okay, can I leave yet?
Right. So, definitely not what that means, but for the sake of the world that we're in, sure.
That's fine.
He gets a meal in the jail before he goes to the penitentiary. And
I hope it's potato pancakes.
That would have been a nice touch if it was potato pancakes. And the officer, the cop, whatever, says like, oh, what's life? Mr. Bedecker, 40, 45 years, 40 years if you're lucky. So then he gets like all upset because he realizes he's stuck in jail. And I wrote, he should have at least had the meal before contemplating the escape clause. Like, get a little, get the meal in there, get something.
You gotta get your last meal.
Yeah, and you get to leave something on your way out then. Cadwallader's voice starts laughing from afar to torture him. I thought for a second he was gonna hang himself.
I thought that's where that was going. Like that's his escape clause.
That wouldn't have necessarily worked. Yeah.
He has to say, "I want the escape clause" to the devil.
Yeah. A figure imposes over the frame. It's weird because you only see his back. And he didn't seem as big as he did in the first scene, so I was like, did they not get...
Yeah, was he not, around for this?
Back? Yeah.
Like, they had his voice, but he couldn't do the scene?
He asks if Bedecker wants the escape clause, to which he nods, and he has a heart attack and dies on the ground, wasting his life and his gift, the poor devil. And then
he definitely wasted a gift. Like, you could have done so much with your life.
So then we get the... And that is supposed to be, I think, the meaning. So, Rachel, the closing narration, please.
Oh, right. There's a saying. Every man is put on earth condemned to die. Time and method of execution unknown. Perhaps this is as it should be. Case in point, Walter Bedecker. Lately deceased. A little man with such a yen to live. Beaten by the devil. By his own boredom and by the scheme of things in this. The Twilight Zone.
So yes, that is the end of Escape Clause. I can go first this time, Rachel.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is, I believe, considered a fairly popular episode of The Twilight Zone. I'm not sure, but I thought that this one was higher ranked, and I kind of wonder if some of that has to do with the fact that one of the things I think people think of when they think of The Twilight Zone are these little morality stories, right? Mm-hmm. They're fables, they're morality plays, what have you. And this is the first episode where we have the main character the protagonist is terrible and needs to get his comeuppance. And he does get his comeuppance, and we all learn a lesson about the value of life and not wasting it and not thinking about how you're going to die, but to actually live and all this shit. So maybe it's because of that this is like the first example of it being a theme of the Twilight Zone to like give you a little lesson. And there's a twist, and the twist is like, oh, he couldn't, like, the twist is good. And I think the first time I saw it, I remember that twist. That he gets life in jail. So he can't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he can't die, but he gets life in jail. So now he'd just be a prisoner forever.
Right.
So it's a good twist, and I don't mind the acting in it. The problem is, when I was like, okay, we're doing these 4 episodes for Volume 4, I was like, oh yeah, all 4 of them are pretty strong, I think. I was wrong. And I don't know how I misremembered that, but it may be because the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a good twist.
Or it's like
that's
like,
pretty good
theme, you know?
Conceptually, I like the idea of this episode. And the acting is good. It's just the direction that it takes you, and the execution is not. And it really is sloppy in that regard. What I think should happen, and I don't know if it has happened, is in the 80s revival or the recent revival in the teens, or if there is another one in the future, which of course there will be, I want somebody to redo it. I want somebody to take the same premise of a Faustian deal where this person wants to be immortal, because like you could have taken it in different ways, like we've discussed.
Right.
You could have had him live a couple hundred years and get bored.
And
like
it
could have gone into
lonely.
the third act could have been in the future, and he's amassed a great deal of wealth because he's lived for hundreds of years, and now he's just super bored of everything, and he doesn't know what else to do, and like all of that could have been more interesting, talking about men's mortality, than just this miserable prick that is a miserable prick from the word go. He's an asshole to his wife. He's a jerk to everyone else. He's a fraudster, and there's no redeeming value to him. So all you can hope for is that he dies. And you get that, but it feels more Twilight Zone-y to have him break bad or turn heel as the episode goes or whatever.
You'd think that there would be at least some arc, which way. Something should happen.
Yeah. I was disappointed in this, especially after thinking that it was stronger than what I think it is now. And, you know, opinions can change, and I think people like this one, but I was not a big fan of it. So for me, it is not on the shelf.
Mm-hmm. And you guys kind of got my thoughts right at the beginning.
Rachel's told you.
I thought I agree with everything you've said. It kind of annoyed me. I was just like, I wanted to like it. I was like, oh, this is a fun concept. Okay, now he made the deal with the devil. Okay, cool. Let's see what he does with this. Immediately grifter, immediately bored, immediately I feel like I skipped to the end. And I went, all right, there's no meat. I have nothing. I feel nothing with him.
Right.
You know what? I don't feel it either, dude. Let's just do the escape clause so we can both get out of here. It was one of those things. And so for me, it's not on the shelf either.
All right. That was escape clause. It is not on the shelf.
Just
cross
like
that one off the
Santa,
list.
The escape clause would not be on the shelf.
Yeah, is that Santa Claus 3, Rachel?
I think so, isn't it? Yeah.
I think you're right. Starring Martin Short. So there you go.
Weird.
Oh yes, I was in the escape clause.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. You can do your little bit.
No. Those were the 2 that we've got to cover, but we're still oh wait, hang on. There's another piece of paper here. I don't know who's communicating with us.
What's that?
What's this say? It says, your journey will continue in the Twilight Zone until you get past time enough at last. Oh, I feel like we have to sit here again.
It's gonna be a while. Oh.
Well,
what do you want to do? Play
how
cards
much time
or
is there? Do you have cards on you?
I might. Hold on.
Well, I guess that's something we can do if we're just stuck here. Unlike, I mean, I was gonna do that. I was gonna jump off of the top of this building, but
I mean,
that works for me.
Could be interesting, but
Thank you very much. So join us next time on Shelf Life for the next tale of the Twilight Zone, and a most unusual couple of tales. One about a story that takes place on an asteroid, and a most intriguing premise, and another about a timid man and his love of books. Here at Shelf Life, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And we'll see you next time.
That's Homewood up ahead, isn't it?
Yep, about a mile and a half.
That's walking distance, isn't it?
Yeah, about a mile and a half.
Yeah, that's walking distance.